Hello everyone and welcome back to GPVWC Super League. We are at round 13 of 16 in the championship and we're at the daunting and tight Baku city circuit. This is one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar, if not the trickiest, and they're going to have to navigate 51 laps of it today if they're going to score any points at all. My name is Caitlin Penny and I'm being joined by not my regular commentator. Normally it would be Ryan Elliott with me in the commentary box here. But today I'm being joined by the great Edward Hunter. Edward, how does it feel to be back and how are you feeling about today?
Well, certainly I'm always happy to fill in. I think great is maybe pushing it. I seem to have gained a prolific profile somewhat unintentionally, if I say so. But
you're the super sub of the GPWC broadcast booth.
You're being very flattering, Caitlin, so it's very nice. But anyway, yeah, enough about me. Let's talk about Baku and the two championships that are definitely holding up. Is, of course, Drivers' Championship. Jan Grankvist needs a couple of things to go his way, but he could potentially put himself mathematically out of reach of Tom Stevens and Mark Schluter at the top of the Drivers' table. He's had a great season, Jan. And we've also got our Constructors' table to think about. Super Venturi, after a non-score from Yuka Pegalada, they're being closed in by THR, who got both cars on the podium, as you'll remember, at Monza last time out. 286 points for THR, 293 for Super Venturi. So that is only let me try and think, that's like a 6-point gap, isn't it, between the two? So that could very much change hands, and Super Venturi need to be back at their best if they want to hold on to that slender lead they've got now.
Indeed, thank you very much, Ed. Aside from Ed, I'm also being joined by Remco de Zeeuw, who is providing you with all of the cameras and the stream that you are watching right now. But yes, Ed, you mentioned the Drivers' Championship, and the big storyline is that that could theoretically be wrapped up today. Currently, the championship leader is Jan Grankvist, racing for Super Venturi, and he leads the championship by 68 points. After this round, there are 78 points up for grabs in the championship. That means, of course, that if Jan was to score 10 more points than Tom Stevens today, and also 2 more points than Mark Schluter, who you also see up in second in the timing screen right now, so if he scores 10 more points than Tom and 2 more points than Mark, then he wraps up the championship today, and that is entirely doable, because 10 points is, for example, the gap between first place and third place at the end of a Grand Prix. So if you finish first and your opponent finishes third without taking fastest lap, you score 10 more points than them, and that would give the championship to Jan Grankvist. I don't think it actually is going to happen today, because Tom Stevens has been better than Jan the last couple of rounds, and Jan, of course, told us before the last race in Monza that he's racing with a different wheel and pedal setup that he's not entirely used to, and doesn't prefer to his old one, which broke. So Jan isn't entirely confident in his own ability here today, and I think a win would be a bit tough to ask of him. But he can put it, I mean, he's already put it pretty far out of reach of his opponents, and the fact that he can wrap it up with over 3 Grand Prix still to go in this championship is quite impressive, to say the least. A little bit closer is the Teams Championship. Currently, Super Venturi are leading that, but we have a bit of a Red Bull McLaren situation there, where THR are catching up, and Super Venturi appear to have lost their edge that they had at the start of the season. Lalu, the other Super Venturi driver, actually failed to score any points at the last race and hasn't finished in the top 10 at the last 3 races. So THR are on the ascent and could still win the Teams Championship. So in terms of the drivers' standings, Grankvist leads by 68 points over Stevens, then it's Mark Schluter in third, having won 2 Grand Prix, as has Stevens. Adam Maguire is 4th in the championship, the top driver who is yet to score a win this season. Robin Pansar is 5th, Carlos Martin is 6th, then it's Matthias Moos, Jarl Tyen, who won the last Grand Prix at the Italian Grand Prix. Janos Brachok is 9th in the championship despite missing the last round. And is Brachok back today? Let me look that up. No, I don't see him. Yes, so he's been replaced by Sergio Fletcher. And then, of course, Jok Pegulalu, the second Super Venturi driver, is 10th in the standings. And the top 5 in the teams are Super Venturi, THR, TOP, and Adonis, and then Edge Esports. So Ed, those are the standings, but we're just seeing our first few laps coming in this qualifying session, which will decide the order that they will start in for today's Grand Prix.
Yeah, interesting first set of runs there. Mark Schluter has set the fastest time so far, 1:37.281. That's currently the best time, but I wonder maybe if he's set up the car better for certain sections of the track, because it's always a bit of a toss-up between whether you want to have it faster in the sort of end of the final sector, beginning of the first sector with the massive long straight, or if you want to be quicker in the middle sector. We saw in the Super Lights encounter a couple of days ago on Tuesday that a lot of drivers focused on the straight at the expense of the middle sector and the twisty sort of corners, apart from David Feidock, who went for the middle sector and actually used it to his advantage. He relied a lot on that DRS to make up for the straight line speed deficit he had. So there's certainly, depending on how you want to play it, a lot of strategic options around here. Great to see Owen McGorgy has set a very, very competitive time just behind Adam Maguire, who's in second. And then we've got Stevens, Ty, and Grankvist, who are top 6 there. And Dylan Fisher as well. Let's give a shout out to Dylan Fisher, who set the 10th fastest time. He's had a bit of a tough time recently, hasn't he? He had a great point in the middle of the season where he was scoring quite a number of points. You think back to Austria, Silverstone, Hockenheimring. Those are very, very good races, but Spa and Monza were kind of messy races for him, with a couple of mistakes and incidents that sort of dented the amount of points that he scored. So he really, really is quite keen to strike back in that number 42, aka Hero car. So great to see him starting qualifying well, but 6/10 off the pace, that's not going to be a comfortable top 10 starting position. You're certainly going to want to be a tenth or two quicker than that to guarantee a top 10 start, as Owen McGorgy begins another flying lap of the Baku street circuit and just swings it into turn 1.
Indeed. Now, Ed, I referred to you earlier as a super sub. We do have a few different super subs on the grid today, one of which is the return of Fabio Sixter, the extremely talented 4-time winner of GPVWC Super League Grand Prix, who is 3rd in the times as it stands. He is making his first entry of the year in the Epic Racing Team car. Of course, he is quite famous for very rarely finishing Grand Prix, unfortunately. He's been taken out of quite a few through no fault of his own. He went through a stage where he had absolutely no luck with internet connection and disconnected from 10 Grand Prix in a row, believe it or not. The fact that he even continued on after that is something to behold. But yes, he returns to GPWC Super League today for his first race of the season. Also standing in, Justin van der Smissen is out there in the Stax Racing car. He replaces Istvan Xingel, and this will be the first race of the year that Xingel has not started, so a shame that we don't see him here. Van der Smissen will be in his 4th Grand Prix. He is yet to score a top 15 finish, and with it the points that will come with it. Pavel Andrzejewski is also driving the Powered by RSR car. This will be just his 2nd Grand Prix. He started the Australian Grand Prix for Powered by RSR, but unfortunately failed to finish on that occasion, and he replaces Daniel Stepkovsky, who would otherwise be driving that car. And aside from that, we are unfortunately missing a few cars still. We're missing the 2nd Zortax car, which was supposed to be driven by Matthew Williams, was expected to be driven by Matthew Williams, and we're still missing both Virtual Drivers by TX3 cars, as we were at the last Grand Prix and as we were at the British Grand Prix, and it's seeming ever more likely that we have lost that team from the championship for unknown reasons. So that would be a big shame, but it's looking likely that we will only get at least 27 of our full grid of 30 cars. But Ed, still 27 cars, a very good grid. And look, Jarl Tyen, the winner of the Italian Grand Prix, is on the front row of the grid as we speak.
Yeah, very, very good final sector from Tyne, fastest of anybody so far. So that tells me he's set up very, very well for that run to the line. But interestingly, we talked about all the changes. There's one that you might not have noticed, Caitlin, or I'm sure you have noticed, you just ran out of time to mention it, and that is the second edge car, previously driven, of course, by Chris Shepherd. Looks like Shepherd has stood aside because he missed the last race as well, where Arda Erchan had to sub in. And now it looks like Loic Moynier, the team owner, has hopped on board, who of course finished 4th in the Austrian Grand Prix for Epic Racing, who's one of the drivers that filled in for Fabio Sixta. It's great to see Fabio back in action, which means my season preview right from the start of the year is finally relevant again, since it does mention him. But Loic Moynier just going into the pits now, 11th fastest at the moment. So certainly Edge Esports, who've only got one double top 10 this season, could do with another. And Moynier certainly ideally placed, not just as a team owner, but as a driver as well, to show what he can do here. Those who are watching FS1 this time last week will remember him finishing on the podium despite driving backwards after a collision at the castle section whilst fighting with Oliver Taras, I believe it was. So that was a very, very entertaining drive from Loic. And certainly seems to be quick round here, which bodes well as we look at Sixta coming towards the line in 5th position currently. So that's great going from the Austrian.
Yep, just about to start a lap is Fabio Sixta. I did see that from Mounier, his backwards finish. I'd forgotten that one actually. It feels like longer ago than it actually was, being a week ago today, I think. But yeah, he is a driver who is not entirely unexpected in that car. He is, of course, the team owner. He drove for Edge Esports at the Belgian Grand Prix. Picked up a DNF on that occasion. But and a little clonk off the barrier for Fabio Sixta. But yes, just like another one of the super subs out there, Justin van der Smissen, this is just the 4th start in GPVWC Super League for Loic Moynier, and Moynier having had a bit more of an impact in his 4 starts with that 4th place finish at the Austrian Grand Prix. Sixta now, a purple first sector, so that means he is faster than the leader. It's not a true purple, so he's not improving on his own time. But I tell you what, Tom Stevens looks as if he's about to improve his time, and could be about to cross the line in 1st position. No, he's coming to the pits, so Stevens setting up for one final run, which will be very important for the driver 2nd in the championship. Another clonk off the barriers from Fabio Sixta. He's practically wall riding around the circuit, which you didn't used to be able to do in GPVWC Super League. The stewards used to watch back every single qualifying lap and check for potential wall riding incidents, but nowadays it is left mostly up to the game itself to monitor the track limits infringements. Sixta comes up to the line. I'm not sure this will be an improvement actually. He comes into the pits, so again we'll set up for one final flying run, and he won't get much time to set that car up. Meanwhile, I did see an improvement out there. I think Tomasz Wok has got himself up into 11th position, so just about misses out on the top 10, but still time to improve as we go into the final 2 minutes. So Ed, it is crunch time. Ed is currently away. Apologies for that, but yes.
Sorry,
we're currently.
Me, I muted myself to cough and then forgot to unmute myself.
Oh, that's okay, Ed. Looks like Martin and Tyan are the 2 drivers who we're watching right now, who are improving on their lap times. Martin's slightly down in that 2nd sector.
Yeah, Carlos is certainly, since winning in Montreal, he's not really had the rub of the green that I think he would have hoped to have. But certainly with McGorgy rejoining the squad after becoming a FSR World Champion, has certainly re-energized the TOP team. And certainly Carlos is seeming that a little bit more confident in the last couple of rounds. Now that he's, as he goes up to 5th fastest, displaces Fabio Sixta. We saw Moose also get the HRT car up to 7th, and he seems to be staying in the pit. So I think Matthias Moose is done for the session as Tyan goes fastest. Another really strong final sector, 25.2. That's enough to just displace Mark Schluter by 1/10.5 then. So Nocturne, their lead driver, once more delivering. The Norwegian is absolutely flying out there as Mark Schluter tries to respond.
Fantastic stuff from Jartijn. We aren't sure how many more races he can do this year, because he sometimes works on a Thursday, but on this occasion he has made his mark already, And will he stay at the top of the times? It's not that far ahead. There are still drivers out there who can improve. We're watching one of them with Mark Schluter taking us around this Baku city street circuit. The first sector here is entirely straight, separated by 90-degree corners. The brakes are very important here. I remember in the past commentating Formula Sprint 1 where the cars were literally having brake failures as they were pushing the cars to their limits. Now we head towards the castle section. The next corner will bring you towards the famous Baku City castle. I'm not entirely sure what the castle's called, but there it is on the left. And then the tightest corner on the track, the tightest corner on the calendar, which is just over 5 meters wide at its tightest point. Now we go through that middle section, and we're only about halfway through the lap now in terms of distance. Of course, in terms of time, we're much longer, much further than that through the lap. There's still a long straight to come over a hop, skip and a jump on the curb on the inside, and then another 90-degree left with a very brutal curb that likes to catch the drivers out, and it's flat out from here. What can Schluter do? It's a good second sector.
McGorgy fastest.
And McGorgy goes fastest, so he's up by less than 200ths of a second at the top of the times, but I think Schluter is challenging. He comes up to the line. Will it be an improvement? He was 2 tenths down in the first sector, so maybe not. It's going to be close. He crosses the start-finish line now, and Schluter goes, and it's not an improvement, so Schluter stays P3. Tyen will not be able to improve. He stays in second position. Adam Maguire up to the line with a good first sector. His third sector is slightly down, and Maguire also fails to improve. Schluter will not improve. Tyen will not improve. Grankvist is in the pits. Will anyone else? I don't think there's anyone else who has a chance here. Thomas Harvey improves to 17th. That's not good enough. Fournier goes to 6th. An improvement, but not quite enough to get him into that top 5. Justin van der Smissen is going to be the last driver to set a flying lap, but it's going to be well down on the leaders. He'll struggle to get into the top 20 with this, and across the line he goes 26th place. So Owen McGorgy by just 0.02 of a second, by just 15,000ths of a second, 14,000ths of a second, will take pole position. You see him celebrating with some rather unorthodox burnouts there, heading towards the second sector. Oh, touches the barriers, but doesn't matter because his lap has been set, and he takes pole position alongside Jarl Tyen. Mark Schluter is 3rd, Jan Grankvist is 4th, Adam Maguire 5th, then Jeffrey Fournier 6th, Carlos Martin 7th, Fabio Sixter 8th, Matthias Musin 9th, Robin Pansar is 10th. Where is Tom Stevens? He is only 11th place. Not great for a driver trying to keep championship hopes alive. Then it's Tomasz Vok P12, Sergio Fletcher P13 in just his second start, Loic Mounier P14, then Stein Hangraf, Pascal Pollens, Moritz Kropp, Thomas Harvey, Philip Puschke and Dylan Fisher, the top 20. Jukka-Pekka Lalu in the second Super Venturi, again struggling in qualifying, P21. Dennis Urban is 22nd, then it's Hygo Poom, Pavel Andrzejewski, George Zalagianis, Justin van der Smissen and Zolt Fuchs, who failed to set a lap time. And then 3 missing cars, of course, with one of those being the Zortax and both of the virtual drivers by TX3 cars. And what an entertaining end to the qualifying session. Very close there with McGorgy and Jarl Tyen. And of course, the championship fight is looking a little bit precarious there. It wouldn't, if they were to finish this way in the Grand Prix, it wouldn't be over here because Schluter would outscore Grankvist and keep himself in championship contention, at least mathematically. Tom Stevens, of course, was only 11th, so he would only score 5 points. And Grankvist was, 13 points. So that would mean that Grankvist would knock Tom Stevens out of championship contention if they were to finish this way. So a very dramatic qualifying session, both in terms of the championship and in terms of the race implications. And we have to wait just over 10 minutes for the warm-up session to finish now before we see how that really does affect the start of this race. But Ed, very close there. There were any one of a number of drivers who could win this one today.
Yeah, certainly. McGorgy triumphing by the narrowest of margins. He was so quick in the first sector, but Tyen almost caught him by the time they went to the line, and that tells me that the TOP is set up very differently to the Nocturne and THR cars, especially with Stevens qualifying, I would say, out of position down in 11th behind the likes of Sixter, Moose, Panzer. That to me says that THR have set up their cars, at least in Stevens' case, very much with the race in mind. to try and make up positions down the straight and maybe not worrying about being a bit slower in that middle twistier sector. So that, but for Tom Stevens' sake, that's what he'll be hoping is the case. The only issue is, can he actually catch up to Grankvist and prevent Jan from sort of knocking him out of contention as well? But yeah, I was saying before we went on air about McGorgy, Tyan, those are the sorts of drivers, and McGorgy definitely back on song, which is exactly what he wanted to be. We know he's complained all this season, hasn't he, about not being quite as at ease in this car, but he's certainly worked really, really hard to get it working underneath him on that qualifying lap, and him versus Tyan is going to be very, very interesting, I feel, especially with Schluter and Grankvist and Maguire close behind as well. So I think McGorgy and Tyan are definitely going to spoil the championship party, and Schluter and Grankvist and Maguire could well end up squabbling amongst themselves. And let's not forget, of course, about the likes of Jeffrey Fournier, Fabio Sixter for Epic Racing, who've had a very good qualifying. They'll be looking to score a lot of points in those yellow and red cars. So it's all pretty mixed up, pretty interesting. A lot of surprise performances in there, and certainly by the end of the year, it's how long is the race? It's in about 50 laps or so, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, 51 laps.
51, yeah, almost got it perfect. There we go.
Very close, good guess.
Especially since I couldn't remember at all, I just randomly went for 50 and I was one lap off. So yeah, 51 laps in store, and I'm really excited because I think we're probably going to see a lot of different strategies, a lot of people slipstreaming at each other down the straight. And of course, these Super League guys, they've got a lot of patience, they know there's a lot at stake, especially higher up in terms of the teams championship and the drivers. In terms of the teams, by the way, this is looking with Grankvist fourth is obviously good for Super Venturi, but both of the THRs in 5th and 11th in the points, whereas, as you say, Lalu down in 21st. It's looking pretty it's looking like he's got a bit of an uphill battle here. There could be a lot of carnage ahead that Jukka-Pekka is going to be looking to take advantage of. He had a bit of a tricky race here last year as well, Jukka-Pekka, so let's hope that Lalu can find a way through the field, because he certainly needs a bit of a boost after a tough round in Monza.
51 laps, the third fewest on the calendar, only behind Spa and Jeddah, and that is of course because of it being the third longest track on the calendar. Should be a relatively quick race though in terms of the average speed, simply because a lot of that distance is straight. But yeah, it makes sense that the longer a track is, the fewer laps you do, so you still end up doing roughly 305 kilometers in total. Now, in terms of the race itself, we've got to look out for who's quickest in the third sector, because that's where the overtaking happens. That's the sector with the long back straight, or the long finish straight, and the fastest driver in qualifying in that third sector was actually Jarl Tyan, who starts second on the grid, so definitely look out for him. He was over 1/10 of a second faster than McGorgy in that sector, and none of that came through slipstream, because there was only one car on track for each of these drivers when they set their qualifying lap. That's the beauty of one person qualifying. I would say, though, make sure to look out for Mark Schluter in this race, because going from third place, he has absolutely nothing to lose. He knows that the championship is basically over for him, even if not mathematically, and considering he's a driver who's already won twice this season, I really think we could be seeing a strong charge from Mark Schluter today. But Ed, one thing I do want to bring up is something that Shimon Frelich has pointed out to us in the YouTube chat, which is that Jan Grankvist, and actually both of the Super Venturi cars, are using very second-hand engines today. We haven't mentioned engines at all yet, but the teams have a choice of running a brand new engine or one that they've used in previous Grand Prix, and both of the Super Venturi cars are running engines that they've actually run in 2 different Grand Prix to this date. So they are very second-hand, or even third-hand engines, if you could see it that way. The only teams that have... Actually, there's only one team that has brought brand new engines for both... Sorry, there's 2 teams that have brought brand new engines for both of their cars, with that being Holland Racing Team and TOP Esports. Virtual Drivers by TX3 is, of course, not here today, so they are
Well, they're saving engines, that's the one upside.
Yes, of course. That's the thing. I'm not sure if they are actually going to use it. So that was what caught me off guard when looking at the statistics. But yeah, there really aren't many drivers out there using a completely fresh engine, which is quite surprising, to be honest, because if you think about it, lots of straights here, lots of acceleration after tight corners. It's a little bit of a power circuit, isn't it?
You would certainly think so, and it was interesting, wasn't it? Going into Monza, Simon was joking that Jan had forgot to change the engine to a fresh one for that specific round. That Super Venturi, one of the teams that are bucking the trend and sort of staying with the older engines that have been through a bit this season at a circuit where there's a very big straight, where engine power and top speed is actually quite, and acceleration indeed as well, quite important. Interesting thing you mentioned about Mark Schluter. He was the fastest in the middle sector in qualifying, the only one in the 28-second bracket. 28.9, I think, was his time in the middle sector. So that, to me, suggests that he's got, but not necessarily the fastest car in the straight, but a car that looks very, very quick in that sort of middle sector. So we could see Mark Schluter trying some unconventional moves or going for clear air, maybe pitting early and trying to undercut those around him. So that's what I would anticipate from AG Sports as we look at the warm-up 3 minutes ago, and Jan Grankvist is giving a massive slipstream to the Nocturne of Jarl Tyne, who sets the fastest lap of the race. And it seems these two are just practicing how to behave in the draft of one another. Now Jan is behind. He's going to see how he handles in the dirty air of that Nocturne in front of him. And of course, Tyne, fresh off that victory in Monza, he's looking to make it 2 in a row, which would, I believe, be the first time in his career he's done that. If only he can get ahead of that fearsomely quick Owen McGorgy with a fresh engine in the back of that TOP.
Yeah, according to the Hot Laps top 10 on RaceView, Owen McGorgy was just about the fastest driver in the middle sector in qualifying, but that does include practice times as well. So I don't know if he actually did set that lap in qualifying. I will have to go back.
Fastest quality times, and that's it.
Yeah, that's okay. So you might have been right there, but even so, Mark was definitely in the top 3. He definitely has a very good time in the middle sector, and seems to have a bit of an all-rounder when it comes to the pace of his car, and that's really what you want here. But then again, remember back to Jeddah where Tom Stevens outqualified Jan Grankvist and then just got absolutely smoked in the race as Jan came flying through on the straight, and there was no way that Tom was going to be able to overtake him again after that. Jan just had much faster straight line speed, and that's the difficulty. If you are going to set up a car that does the same lap time as another one, make sure it has a higher top speed, because then you'll be able to overtake and they won't be able to pass you back without plenty of slipstream, DRS, push to pass, using all of that up. So that means, of course, that the drivers with the fastest third sector time, the fastest speed trap, should be the ones to look out for. Tim Frelick says, I wasn't joking, Ed, he literally forgot to set engines for Monza. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought... wouldn't have thought Jan would make a mistake like that, but, you know, it ended up working decently for him. Still finished in 6th position, and yeah...
He did, but remember, he was in that fight with Schluter and Panzer in the closing stages, and he went for the move just at the end of the penultimate lap, didn't he? Maybe he went a little bit too early, because there are a lot of people... It's very easy to say armchair critic analysis of, he went too early and got swamped on the final lap when Panzer and Schluter got DRS and just went either side of him. But of course, if you're Jan Grankvist, you sort of want to go for the move a bit earlier, try and pull the gap if you can. So it's not always guaranteed that they're going to fly back past you. But yeah, it did feel a little bit like a round where Jan and Super Venturi were a little bit outfoxed in Monza. And but of course, with the old engine, it certainly puts into the perspective the job that Jan is doing, and you've got to feel a bit for poor Jukka-Pekka, because it's going to be difficult to make too many moves down the straight if his engine is only at 40% condition compared to some of the ones he's competing against that are better than like 80 or 90% then. So
yeah. No team out there has worse engines in terms of the life left than Super Venturi, so they are up against it today.
Then, okay.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry, I don't know if I cut out there. I feel like I interrupted you, but...
No, it's my fault.
No, that's okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, in terms of Super Venturi, they were very much outfoxed at Monza. But for Jan, 6th place, well, it's not great by his standards when he has the lead that he has in the championship. That is still a good result and still gets him closer to his ultimate goal, which is to wrap that championship up, which of course he could theoretically do today. Mathematically probably won't, but there is definitely a chance. And I'd have to work out, actually. I'd love to go back through the results so far this year and work out how many races they've done where Jan's results would have been enough to wrap up the championship. It definitely would have been enough in Japan. That was a day where Granqvist won and Stevens retired. Of course, it would have been enough to knock Stevens out of contention in San Marino, but Mark Schluter won the race, so that would have kept his fight alive. I think it may have been only... Looking at this, it was only 3 occasions this year, so 3 occasions out of the 12 races we've done where the result would have gifted Jan Granqvist the championship. And it's a bit less likely today because obviously Jan is down, he's on the back foot in terms of engine preference, he's on the back foot in terms of his equipment, obviously not using the equipment that he used when he won those races. So I would say the chances of him winning the championship today are probably about 1 in 12, maybe 1 in 15. But, you know, that can absolutely happen. This is round 13 of the championship, so it's entirely possible. And even if he doesn't, let's face it, he's going to wrap it up soon.
Yeah, and the thing about Jan Granqvist is he always seems to thrive, and Super Venturi as well for that matter, they always seem to thrive from a sort of underdog position because they're this little team from Finland that have certainly punched above their weight to be leading in Super League for the first time in their careers, of course. And certainly, of course, with the championship so close, I think Teams Championship is certainly looking a little bit more shaky for them. But in terms of the drivers, if you look over the course of the whole season, Jan has always... you think back to races like Silverstone where he won because he one-stopped and was on the right strategy. Hockenheim, another one that comes to mind where strategy was so important, and Jan always made the right moves at the right time, even with the rain going off and on and stopping and then randomly coming back and getting heavy enough to go the full wets. And then he had that streak of 3 wins in a row where he was pretty exemplary in Saudi, Japan, and China. Maybe Japan, McGorgy, you could say, I would have won if I hadn't been disconnected. But McGorgy's back now, so we're definitely going to see what he's made of. And that's really exciting because I think McGorgy and Granqvist are 2 of the top GPV Super League drivers we've got, along with Tyan, Schluter, Stevens, Maguire, the rest of them as well. It's such a strong field this season, and that's why I think it's been such a pleasure to watch so many of these races because it's so difficult to really call beforehand who is going to come out on top because all of them have got so many different strengths in these sort of different scenarios at some of these circuits.
Indeed, there is the circuit, the Baku City circuit, and we're away on the formation lap. Ed, I'm going to ask you about strategy in a minute because you brought up strategy with the British Grand Prix earlier this year. But in the meantime, we're going to take a look once again at the starting order. I don't believe there are any penalties. There aren't any outstanding penalties from the last round, so it's McGorgy on pole position, followed by Jarl Tyen, Mark Schluter, and Jan Granqvist, who could wrap up the championship today, but would have to pass Mark Schluter for that to happen. Adam Maguire is 5th, then it's Jeffrey Fournier, Carlos Martin, and Fabio Sixter making his first race start of the season, the 4-time GPVWC race winner. Matthias Moos is P9, then it's Robin Pansar, Tom Stevens, 2nd in the championship, only 11th on the road. Tomasz Vok is P12, then we're going to go to P13, Sergio Fletcher in just his 2nd start. He was exemplary in Monza. Loic Mounier, P14, then Stein Handgraf and Pascal Pollens. The top 15 will score points at the end of the day. Moritz Kropp is P17, then it's Thomas Harvey, Philip Puschke, former champion, Dylan Fisher, P20. We now move on to the stragglers. Jukka-Pekka Laulu struggling in qualifying. Dennis Urban P22, Heigo Poom P23, then Pavel Andrzejewski standing in for Daniel Stepkowski. P25, George Zalagianis. Then it's Justin van der Smissen and Zolt Schuks. Stacks making up the back row of the grid despite scoring their first point of the year at the last race. And they have plenty of ground to be made up today. Then again, at least they are here. They are doing better than 3 other cars. So, 51 laps ahead of us. And Ed, I said I'd ask you about strategy because that is important. What did it look like in Superlights, and what can we extrapolate for today?
Well, certainly in Superlights, and I think it's been the case the last couple of races here, most of the top runners end up doing a two-stop essentially, but the undercut can be quite a bit of an advantage here. I remember a couple of years ago, Yannick Bock in 2022, he did a one-stop from 20th on the grid and ended up finishing 9th. So if you've got the speed in that car, then you certainly can try and do a one-stop. So we've seen people do 3 stops and it's worked out sort of okay for them here and there, but I really expect it to be a 2-stop race for about 75% of the field today, barring any sort of incidents and accidents. And judging by past events, I think we can expect 1 or 2 certainly, especially with in some of the braking zones when people go side by side into turn 1 at the end of this high-speed straight, or into turn 3 as well as another one, like we saw with Maggio and Lahou in the Superlights race. It can get a little bit tight, and you definitely want the rear and front wheels, for that matter, as well, to just have a little bit of margin between yourself and the wall, because otherwise you could find your race ending in a flash, which is really not what you want, especially when there is a championship on the line. So lots of pressure on Jan Grankvist, and indeed on Schluter and Stevens as well, but also on McGorgy and Tyne. McGorgy wants to prove that he's still got it. Tyne wants to make it 2 in a row, so big incentive for both of them to absolutely go for it here.
A very short run to turn 1 here. Jarl Tyne is on the inside. If he gets a better start than McGorgy, he will absolutely get through into the first corner. So McGorgy has to be absolutely on top of it here and make sure that he gets off the line well. Into position, the back of the grid, Zolt Schukes, and the lights are coming on. When they go out, we will be underway for 51 laps of racing here in Baku, Azerbaijan, and it is go! Away we go towards the first corner. Oh, McGorgy gets a good start. Look at Schluter coming through, and side by side in behind, Jan Grankvist nearly getting up to 3rd, but he's going to be passed actually. So Adam Maguire gets through on the outside up into 4th position. They're still side by side and they get away with it into turn 2. Now this is very tight. The rest of the field streaming through. Looks as if they're all safe here, and I'm very much hoping that continues through to turn 8, through to the castle section, because if someone stuffs it there, it can involve the entire field. There's Geoffrey Fournier running with his teammate Sixter, P8 and P9. They've both lost a place or 2 in the early stages. Maguire did get Grankvist, so Maguire is up into 4th, Grankvist is down to 5th. It's McGorgy, Tyne, Schluter, Maguire and Grankvist as we head towards turn 7, which brings us towards the castle section. Still, green lights flashing around the course. That's what we like to see. No front wings or rear wings flying just yet. Very close to the barriers go the leaders. You've got to be so brave through that sector. Already McGorgy builds out 1 second advantage ahead of Jarl Tyne. That will be important when DRS is enabled from lap 3. Yellow flags. Hopefully everyone's got through the castle section okay, but that's always a little bit daunting on the first lap. One of the stacks car, well, I think George Zalagianis has dropped back, so potential instance for the likes of George Zalagianis, who's now 6 seconds off the back of the field. Now we head towards the start-finish straight for the first time of asking since the start, and it's still McGorgy leading. Will there be any passes as they slipstream each other down here? Back to you, Ed, as we complete the first lap of the race.
Yeah, excellent getaway from Owen McGorgy, and he had to make a good start because he knows how quick Jarl Tyne is on that run down the main straight in the final sector there. Schluter is right behind Tyne as well, but of course he is probably going to be waiting for that DRS to open next time around, so Jarl Tyne is going to be very, very wary of that. For Grankvist, he got sort of caught on the inside, didn't he? Made a good getaway, but sort of behind Tyne, bogged down a little bit compared to McGorgy. Grankvist sort of had nowhere to go, had to back off, and Maguire simply went around the outside of him, which is very good for THR in both not only the Constructors' Championship, because they're basically ahead of both the Super Venturis now, but also in the Drivers. Maguire can back Grankvist along, as Stevens, who's still down 11th, is going to try and pick off the rest of the top 10 in front of him then. But a highest runner on the hard tyres, Moritz Kropp in the second Nocturne, who's in the final points-paying position. Philip Pushke has also opted to start on the hards, as have Jukka-Pekka Laulu, Pavel Andrzejewski, and Zolt Zux. So that looks like one of the green stripes, that Hangraf, having a little bit of a moment there just in front of Thomas Vack behind Panzar. And it looks like Zalagianis has had to make an early pit stop. He's gone for the mediums.
Yeah, I think he must have lost a wing or two in that incident. So he is at the back of the grid. Moritz Krop, the top driver, on medium tyres now. Only Justin van der Smissen has started on the hard tyres by the look of that graphic there. Of course, the top 15 drivers in qualifying had to start on the soft tyres because that is the compound that they qualified on. And that, of course, is the rule here in GPVWC Super League. Now we come towards the end of the second lap. Tyne has got himself back within DRS range of Magorgi. DRS is not enabled just yet. It will be at the end of the next lap. And there is the DRS zone. You can see the line. So at the end of that first lap, Jeffrey Fournier passed Sergio Fletcher on the straight. He's now got past Matthias Moos as well, up into 7th position. He's the biggest mover of the last couple of laps, although I think he lost a place or two off the start, so it won't really look like that.
Yeah, Martin got past Fournier, yeah.
And Justin van der Smissen had to pit as well, so potential damage there for Justin van der Smissen at the back of the grid. Either that or just wanting to get off the hard tyres early on, possibly doing something slightly different. But anyway, 3 laps in, Magorgi still leads, followed by Jarl Tyne. The gap now just 0.6 of a second in this middle sector of the course. And then it's Schluter, Maguire and Grankvist as they go up towards the castle section yet again.
Yeah, certainly. So Tyne has started to up his pace a bit, and certainly he knows he's got that small advantage in terms of straight line speed over Owen Magorgi, and he wants to take a full advantage of that once the DRS opens. And that's why he's also beginning a little bit of a slipstream before DRS opens anyway, so it's not like, oh, well, there's no point pushing because there's no DRS for me to use. You've got to make sure you're in that position. As Grankvist, interestingly, sets the fastest first sector of the race, 44.8. Of course, those times are going to keep dropping as the fuel goes down and the cars get lighter and lighter as the race goes along. But also when they pit for fresh tyres a bit later on, as Magorgi gets very, very loose, actually, through turns 19, 18 and 19 there. And this is going to be a perfect opportunity for Jarl Tyne to take the lead.
DRS enabled. This will be relatively easy, actually. He's got it done even before the start line. Look at that. So Jarl Tyne takes the lead of the race on lap 3, going on to lap 4. Magorgi slots into 2nd position, and that is the advantage of DRS. Admittedly, Magorgi was slightly out of shape through those fast sweepers, got very close to the wall, and that's a very daunting section of circuit. There were accidents there in the FS2 race. I know well, because I had to dodge them at the end of the first of the two. But did you cause that? Oh my goodness.
No, one of my drivers did. I wasn't in the race myself. But yeah.
Okay.
In race 2, there was a big part of that. Anyway, we won't talk about that because that driver might be in a bit of trouble with the steward and ongoing steward's investigation. But going back to this then, Magorgi, he's certainly not going to take that one line down, is he? He's got to stay tight behind Jarl Tyne. But now Mark Schluter's coming into play. Magorgi, while he will hopefully, from his perspective, get the DRS from the back of Jarl Tyne, Schluter's also going to be taking advantage of that too. And you can tell how confident Mark is in that sort of middle sector, which is where he's closing up once again. As Grankvist is also, for his money, keeping Maguire in sight. We also see Moynier's taking the final point away from Moritz Krop in the second knockdown then. So while one has gotten into the lead, his teammate is starting to struggle on the medium tire.
Indeed. So, an update on some of your contenders here. Mark Schluter, of course, doing well in 3rd position. There he is on the back of Owen Magorgi, and Magorgi is in danger of losing the DRS from Jarl Tyne. He may actually have lost it. We're going to see as they go across the DRS line, just about is able to open the rear flap. You see Grankvist alongside Maguire as well, so Grankvist back up into 4th place. But look at this, Schluter goes through into 2nd position and does get up into that place, into the corner. Nicely done from both of those drivers. So 2 of the top 3 in the championship are on the move. As for Tom Stevens, he is into the top 10 now after starting 11th place in this race. And actually, where's Jukka-Pekka Laulu? He's not had a good start. He's 23rd here, having started 21st. Of course, does have that rather old engine, but you'd be expecting more from the Super Venturi driver, and we'll have to keep an eye on him as the race goes along. So, Jarl Tyne leads, but he's got Mark Schluter on his tail now, as they've both got through past Owen Magorgi, who's qualified better than he's raced in the last few events ever since he returned from his absence. where he was focusing on the FSR Championship. Looks like the biggest mover in these early stages has been Sergio Fletcher, actually, in just his second GPVWC Super League start. He was really exceptional, scoring points, scoring a top 10 finish on his debut last time out, and looks set to repeat that feat today.
Yeah, very, very good. Was pipped actually to the FSR Pro title by a single point. Lost it to Patrick Sevitt, I think, in the end. But Sergio Fletcher really making a big impression in GPV at the top level and showing that he very much belongs there. Very much a very, very good substitute that Adonis had picked for Janos Braksok, who's certainly no slouch himself and has got some good results this season, as you said earlier, in the top 9 in the Drivers' Championship. So Fletcher, him and Tom Stevens have sort of been working together so far. I wonder how long that's going to last, especially as Stevens is rocketing up to the back of him now, as we look at Martin starting to challenge Maguire, who's dropped off the back of Grankvist, who you saw on that previous lap was pushing to try and catch up to Owen McGorgy. Side by side go Stevens and Fletcher. Fletcher's got the inside. Tom Stevens will have to back out and hold on to that 10th position then. But Fletcher responding well to the runner-up from last season, who's certainly giving him a run for his money at the present moment.
Okay, through turn 3 towards turn 4. We're still in the right-angled corners section of the circuit, which is deceptively difficult, actually. You've got to pick your braking points exactly right. And this next little chicane as well is much tighter than it seems. The second corner comes at you very quickly, and so does the barrier. And then we head into possibly the tightest corner on the circuit, turn 7. Now into the narrowest corner on the circuit, turn 8, up the hill to the left. Drivers will routinely brush the barriers through there and will hope to get away with it. Usually they do. Sometimes it's a bit too much of a whack and the suspension gives way, and Tom Stevens gives it a bit more of a berth. This next corner is a very tricky one. As you hop over the curb, you never quite know how the car is going to handle through there, and then you go downhill. If you lock up a brake into there, you have to skip wide over the curb, otherwise the car gets hooked and kind of spins around. Sergio Fletcher has a really good run at Matthias Moos, and Carlos Martin has an even better run on Adam Maguire. So this is a change for 5th position here. Martin sighs through on the straight and does get past. As for Fletcher, he has also got through, so passes Matthias Moos as I thought he might. And Fletcher, having just made another move a couple of laps ago, is now up into 8th position, Ed.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Maguire has dropped a couple of places then after getting past Grankvist at the start. He's sort of struggling to hold on. McGorgy as well, the area that he's really struggling is that turn 16 run. That's why he keeps losing all the time to Schluter, who's now 1.3 seconds ahead, and indeed Jarl Tyne as well. It's slowly starting to already turn into a 2-horse race here, unless someone like Grankvist or McGorgy can do something clever with the strategy. It'd be interesting to see Martin's pace in that second TOP. Now he's got a bit of clear air, if he can just get himself a little bit of a gap to Adam Maguire here. But yeah, Stevens, I think he's only really made 1 place from where he started so far after 7 laps. I think he would have hoped to have cleared Sergio Fletcher by now, so it'll be interesting to see how he responds at this current phase, because it feels like the THRs are sort of regressing into the middle of the pack, which is, while they're still going to score more points than Super Venturi overall at the present moment, that's not really what they would have wanted. This wasn't really part of the take the lead of the Constructors' Championship plan, I don't think.
I think they still would take the lead of the Constructors' Championship, though, or...
wouldn't be as comfortable as they'd like, arguably, especially if Ralu gets into the bottom end of the points later on. But here's Jan, he's going for 3rd on Owen McGorgy.
Yep, I think this move's about to take place. Here we go, DRS wide open, and there's very little you can do to defend from that. So through goes Jan Grankvist into the top 3 places. He's chasing down Mark Schluter, one of only 2 other drivers still in technical contention for the championship this year. And there's Jeffrey Fournier. And Fletcher's made up another place, so Fletcher up into P7 now. Great start for Sergio Fletcher. Meanwhile, I'm afraid to say we've had our first retirement from the race. Philip Pushke has dropped out of the order. So from the 27 cars who started, it's the only single car entry on the grid who is out of the race. Zortax now have no cars in the running whatsoever. Matthew Williams, we still don't entirely know why he didn't turn up today. And there is Pushke retiring to the pits. just seems to have called it a day for whatever reason. So 26 cars remain in this race from 27 starters and a potential 30, but still a nice big grid with which to go racing. And we're looking now at Jarl Tyen, who continues to lead this race, but not comfortably. He's got Schluter behind him. The championship leader Grankvist now has Clean Air ahead of him. This race still has a very long way to go.
Yeah, and that move from Grankvist was done with 40% engine compared to Owen McGorgy, who's got a fresh engine. So that shows you the sheer power of the DRS then in that scenario. For Pushke, though, big disappointment. That's 10 races in a row now. He's failed to score a point. Last time he scored a point was the Japanese Grand Prix, where he finished 13th, of course. His only points at playing position this season so far. So Zortax only had that one car, as you say. They really needed a bit of better luck for Philip Pushke today, but sadly that's not to be. As we see another move is that Maguire. Oh, Martin's lost his front wing. That's why Maguire's got through there. So big mistake from Carlos Martin there. And the steering looks buckled as well, Caitlin.
Yeah, Carlos Martin, 6th in the championship. He's done a great job so far this year. Won the Canadian Grand Prix. Similar track to this actually as the Canadian Grand Prix, with long straights separated by little fiddly bits. And unfortunately today he's clearly asked a bit too much of the car. He was running in close contention with some other drivers though, so I won't rush to conclusions and say that he made a mistake, but I do think that's probably what happened. Now here is Sergio Fletcher, who is increasing his advantage in terms of being the biggest mover of the race so far, up to P6 in the early stages, on the back of Adam Maguire. And could you imagine if he gets into the top 5 here? The Adonis engineering car, powered by a Reventon engine, on the back of the THR, powered by the Viper. The Viper, of course, theoretically the most powerful engine, just because of how they've updated the car as the season goes on. Nocturne, THR, and Green Stripes are the main... Sorry, they're 3 of the teams with a Viper engine. AKA Hero also has a Viper, so 4 teams in total. And there was a brief yellow flag there, so hopefully everyone is still okay. It says it's in the first sector. Carlos Martin has rejoined the race, just ahead of George Zalagianis, who's out. So 25 cars remaining now. And that will be what the yellow flag was for. So whatever happened to George Zalagianis, it was terminal. And now we watch Sergio Fletcher going on to the start-finish straight just behind Adam Maguire. Looks set to make up another place. Tom Stevens might come through as well. They might go 3 wide here. And they both pass Maguire. And Maguire comes into the pits. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. But side by side are Fletcher and Stevens down towards turn 1. Stevens gets a double overtake. Very good driving there from Tom Stevens, who started this race in 11th position and is up into 5th place right now. But yes, quite an early pit stop there from Adam Maguire. This is about the stage where you'd expect to see the first few drivers coming in, but it's still a little bit early, and definitely at least a 2-stop strategy for Adam.
Yeah, Maguire going for the undercut, as indeed is Dennis Urban for Green Stripes as well. But yeah, that was very, very good communication from THR, because they knew that Stevens was tucked in right behind Fletcher, and that they needed to get Stevens by Fletcher without, of course, running into the back of Adam Maguire as he was pitting there. So they played that scenario to perfection there, and Fletcher did well, honestly, not to get taken out and caught up in there. This is what happened to Zalagianis. Just the brakes clearly in difficulty, and he had to go straight on at turn 1 and into the runoff next to the crane.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the brakes or if he was just pulling it up, but there goes George Zalagianis, the 2nd retirement of this race. 25 cars remain. Here's Jarl Tyen leading the race by just about 1 second from Mark Schluter, who's only just keeping his DRS advantage alive. May not even have it at this point in time. He keeps being at threat of losing it, and then just about keeping it on the straight. We'll have to see if the flap still opens. I can't see from that shot, but we'll see it in a second. The flap is not open, so Tyen has broken DRS, and they're both pulling away from the fight for 3rd between Grankvist and McGorgy. Now we see Pansar. Well, he was side by side with Jeffrey Fournier, but Fournier is in the pits now, and behind them, Matthias Moos. Is that Fabio Sixter? Sixter up the inside, goes through on Moos. Moos nearly run into the barriers, and here comes Stein Handgraf now. Up the inside, sticks his nose in, gets away with it, Matthias Moos, and stays in P9. And there's the rear wing open. There are 2 DRS zones on this circuit. This is the second of the 2. Moose up the inside. That's very close. They tangle. They're rubbing together. And they've only just managed to get themselves unhooked, but they're going to go 3 wide into the corner. Surely that's not going to work. And you've got Loic Mounier in the middle, 4 wide on the exit. My goodness. Moritz Kropp is the other driver involved. Moose is now side by side. Sorry, Mounier is side by side with Handgraf. There's Kropp now side by side with Tomasz Vok. And we've got Thomas Harvey getting involved in the Pescara ADG car. I can't believe I saw 4 wide at Baku. That was unbelievable stuff. And they've now sorted themselves into a semblance of an order with Moose, Handgraf, Mounier, Kropp and Wok, and then Harvey in that order. But my goodness, that was a very close one.
Yeah, I think Moritz Kropp saw cars going 3 wide in front of him, was about to go 4 wide and thought, well, maybe this is a bit silly, backed off and was able to pick off Thomas Vac as a result, I think, there. But yeah, Matthias Moose being made a bit of a punching bag there. Sixter did not leave an awful lot of room at turn 1, and then Handgraf sort of went for a marginal move and locked wheels. That could have gone a lot worse for both of them. But yeah, Handgraf still running in 10th at the moment. We see Fournier has also pit as well, and it'll be interesting to see where Maguire is in the order. Maguire's down in 22nd. I think he actually had a very slow stop. There might have been a bigger issue with that car, as we're about to see Handgraf be overtaken because he's going into the pits, and Mounier is being drafted by Moritz Kropp then as they go side by side into turn 1. Is Kropp going to go all the way around the outside the Edgy Sports car? Yes, he is. Moritz Kropp up to 10th place.
Good move, just keeps it within the white lines. That was really good stuff. Meanwhile, I think Tyen made a mistake on that last lap. Schluter is right under his gearbox, look at that. So after just losing DRS, Schluter was able to not just get back into DRS range, but get right up behind Jarl Tyen's car. And this could be very close stuff. Now, we'll have to keep an eye on them and see when they do decide to make that pit stop, because as you said, the undercut can be very effective here. You need the grip, especially for this sector of the course. And by this point, the tyres are already up to temperature. They've already got grip in them. Jarl Tyen is trying to extend the advantage again. I really do think he lost time due to a mistake or something, because he didn't just lose time to Schluter. Jan Grankvist was able to gain maybe 5 or 6 tenths in that as well. So something happened to Tyen, but anyway.
43.5 is saying for Tyen's previous lap then, so it was about 6 tenths slower than Schluter. We also see the Adonises have swapped positions. Panzer is now ahead of Sergio Fletcher, his teammate there, so Sergio's let him through in a THR-ish fashion, I would say there. But yeah, Tyen looking a little bit more under pressure here, and Schluter looking very confident, especially in that
Oh, sorry, yellow flag, and then Pavel Andrzejewski showed up as a DNF, so we got 3 drivers out of this race now. So out goes the RSR car, 2 Super League starts for him, and no finishes. And I'm not sure if Daniel Stepkowski will be back for the next round. We'll have to ask Ryan Elliott about that. Matthias Moose now losing places. That's because he's in the pits, so no panic there. Thomas Harvey and Dylan Fisher follow him in. A bunch of the cars that were involved in that fight. And I still can't believe that no one ended up going for a full spin. It looked as if at least someone would. Fabio Sixter also in the pits. And here are the top 2 still yet to make their stops. So what a dramatic opening this has been to the race. In Monza we saw cars basically following each other around for the duration of the Grand Prix and sticking in that DRS range, but here in Azerbaijan it's been much more of a toss-up, and drivers really swapping places and going up and down and sometimes round and round. And now we go through that top section of the course with the top 2. You can see a little bit of traffic coming up, actually. One of the backmarkers who's made a pit stop just up ahead.
Van der Smissen.
And then looking back, you can see Jan Grankvist, who's got back within 3 seconds of them, with Owen McGorgy in close contention. Back onto the start-finish straight we go again. Not a great run from Tyen. Schluter has a chance here. Will Tyen see his opportunity and come into the pits? He might. He's pulling over to the left. And he does come into the pits, so Schluter will take the lead. Jarl Tyen makes his stop. McGorgy and Grankvist both stay out, 2 of the main contenders in this race. And they will go through into 2nd and 3rd position, at least temporarily. And I'd love to see where Tyen comes out here in relation to some of the other drivers who have stopped. And of course, in relation to the other drivers in general, because he will want some clean air here. Jeffrey Fournier side by side with Zolt Schukes, who looks like he's pitting. Also in are Loic Mounier and Tomasz Vok. And Yartayan does get some clean air, which will help him in the castle section. It means he won't get slipstream heading down the start-finish straight, but I think this will help him in the long run. And he'll get that undercut on Mark Schluter with the softer tire, with the fresher tyres being put on sooner.
Yeah, and look, there's that big 7-second gap between Tyen and Lalu, who of course started on the mediums, and so he's running a bit longer, and it's the same for Moritz Krop as well. But yeah, Fournier has actually done very, very well, pitting 3 laps ago to undercut the people that he has undercut. But yeah, Adam Maguire still down in 17th after pitting 4 laps ago. His pace has not been, he's not really set the track on fire, but he's just, I wonder if he just had a really, really long pit stop as well, because he seemed to lose a lot of time. Maybe there was some damage that we didn't see, Caitlin, but yeah, I'm surprised that Adam Maguire is still running out of the points at the moment as the pit stops are playing out.
Now surely Mark Schluter will stop on this lap. He's got to react to what Yartayan just did. Yellow flag in sector 1. I'll keep an eye out to see if anyone drops. And Schluter, you can see him pulling over to the left-hand side. That indicates that he's going to make his pit stop. These cars, of course, don't have indicators, so you've got to show it in terms of your body language. Now, what does he do? Both in terms of the compounder tyre that he goes onto. Grankvist and McGorgy both into the pits, as is Tom Stevens. Robin Pansar goes through. He will lead this race. And into the stop goes Schluter. Medium tyres go on. Now, I thought I saw hard tyres on Yartayan. Could we see confirmation of the tyre compounds? It's medium, so clearly not quite right. And Tyen does retake what will effectively be the net lead of the race. So they were basically side by side before they made their stops. They've come out with Tyen just ahead of Schluter. The undercut seems to have helped him by the tune of about maybe half a second. And it looks as if only Sergio Fletcher from the top 10 has gone onto hard tyres. Very interesting. So Fletcher doing something a bit different. As Fournier passes Jukka-Pekka Lalu, who of course started on medium tyres, so he's slightly out of sequence here. But
and
with 15 laps
crew have done a really good job as well, Caitlin, because they've got McGorgy out ahead of Grankvist in Super.
They have indeed. Very good shout there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there they are. So I was wondering maybe if he made the move just before they went in the pits, or I was pretty sure they came in with Grankvist ahead. So yeah, McGorgy just allowed them to execute that brilliantly there, and that's a big boost for TOP, because McGorgy was starting to be played out of that podium fight, and now Grankvist once more has got a car ahead of him. He can get DRS off it, but I think he would have rather been much closer to Schluter rather than behind McGorgy then. So McGorgy, his chance of the podium still very much on then, with another let's see, 36 laps to go then, so still quite a way to run. And I'm not sure Fletcher's going to be able to get to the end on those hard tyres, but it'll be interesting to see the progress that he makes as Panzar pits from the lead, and Schluter's having another go at Yartayan. This time he does take the lead, and he's not wasting any time here, is he? The German retakes the lead at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
Yeah, and that is for position. So while Moritz Krop will lead them on the road, Schluter will lead them in the net order, having made the move on the track. But it is far from over. There's Loic Mounier making a move on Stein Hangraf. In the pits and exiting the pits is someone, I didn't see who, but there was definitely a change in the order there. But yes, Krop leads from Schluter, then Tyen. McGorgy will be net third, then Jan Grankvist is in 5th position. And I'm afraid to say we've lost Fabio Sixter. So the first start of his GPVWC Super League season ends after just 15 laps. That would have been what the yellow flag was for a lap ago. And that is very upsetting for Fabio Sixter, who, it's sad to say, usually retires from these races, whether it's his fault or not. Mark Schluter running in P2, catching Moritz Krop. May actually pass him on the road before Krop makes his pit stop, but it won't matter much. It would be a bit of a frustration for Tyen if Schluter is given DRS from Krop. That looks like it's going to happen. And Kropp's pulling over, actually. Kropp pulls over and lets them through on the road. Oh, I'll tell you why that was. He didn't want to give DRS to Mark Schluter because, of course, he is Jarl Tyen's teammate. That is very sneaky for Moritz Kropp, who sacrifices 3 seconds of his own race just to make sure that Schluter did not get DRS. Very sneaky indeed. What do you make of that, Ed?
Yeah, the Lunark team did this in the FS1 race with Luke Mitchell stayed out to help Oliver Tarras in the battle against Lloyd Moynihan of all people, funnily enough. But yeah, on this occasion, I think it's the idea of keeping Kropp out was to sort of hold up Schluter and back him into Jarl Tyen and then get out of the way before Schluter could take advantage of DRS, but that's not paid out. So to me, Kropp and Lalu are both trying to one-stop this at the moment, but that's why they're staying out as long as they are. And this is Sixter coming out of the pits, and the steering does not look healthy at all. There's some hardware issue he's suffering with there. So actually, it wasn't a connection issue. It looks like the wheel just wasn't behaving itself, and unfortunately, Fabio Sixter, the Austrian, having to abandon the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which is a big shame for him.
Yeah,
not a shame for Matthias Moos. I'm sure it's breathing a massive sigh of relief.
Yeah, you could see him wiggling around there with his steering, so clearly something not right on the exit of the pits. That would have been, he would have been testing something. Maybe his force feedback went out or something like that. It wouldn't be the first time that I've seen something like that happen in a Grand Prix, and it is very like Fabio Sixter to have something like that happen to him. There is Mark Schluter now leading this race, both on the road and in the net order, and Jarl Tyen is second, despite the very sneaky tactics from Nocturne, with Kropp staying out to hold up Schluter and then deny him the DRS. And now we go towards the start-finish straight once again. McGorgy looks as if he's about to pass Kropp on the road, and Kropp will presumably pit soon. Down the start-finish straight we go once again. He'll stay out for the time being. Started, of course, on those medium tyres. He was the top driver to start on medium tyres, so we'll run a little bit longer. And McGorgy does get through on the straight, up into third position, and puts a car between himself and Grangfist, who is over a second back from him now. So that's important in the grand scheme of things. And Jukka-Pekka Lalu pits as well. He'll drop potentially even outside of the top 20 at this rate.
Yeah, Lalu set a 1:45.1 the previous lap. He was just losing time constantly out there. No, that wasn't because he's pitting. That was the lap before. So yeah, that really shows he was about 2 seconds off the pace on the mediums. But I'll tell you who's got a really, really interesting strategy. AKA Hero, they've decided to pit both their cars onto another set of soft tyres. So Handcraft was Fischer, was actually setting purple final sectors as well on their 4-lap-old soft tyres. They're now 5-lap-old, of course, but he is now 8 tenths behind Loic Moynier. And just outside this battle, you can just see right behind Moose and Moynier to try and get into the top 10. So interesting from AK Hero. Most people are just going soft, medium, medium, but AK Hero trying to get away with just one stop on the medium tyre near the end. So let's see if that pans out for them. Dylan Fischer looking very racy at the moment.
Yeah, the car does get better on its tyres as the race goes along. Of course, as it gets lighter, it stops smushing the tyres into the road quite so much. And so you do see drivers running a bit longer than you would otherwise expect them to at the end of the race. So while it looks now as if they might be committing to a 3-stop strategy, I don't think they are. Of course, they're probably still open to that, but you very rarely see 3-stop strategies nowadays. And the two cars you see up ahead of Tom Stevens there are Moritz Kropp and Jan Grangfist. And Kropp comes into the pits. So Kropp comes in from those medium tyres. Grangfist 4th place. Tom Stevens 5th. These two have been close together pretty much all season long. They fought for wins. Today they're fighting for podium places or the lower places in the top 5. Dylan Fischer now up into the top 10 on those soft tyres. And of course, if he is slightly out of position due to the strategy, then he'll be slightly higher up at this point in the race than when he finishes it. But if his strategy plays out, then he could end up making places generally. Jarl Tyen now just 5/6 tenths of a second behind Mark Schluter, following him closely. One of them has been following the other for the entire race so far, as they've gone at it for the win. And it looks as if it's set to stay that way for the rest of the race. We're not even halfway through just yet. but I don't see anything shaking this up aside from maybe a mistake from one of these two drivers. And
McGorgy started up his pace actually. Look, he first sector 44.9, so he was like 6/10 quicker than Tyen and about half a second quicker than Schluter. So I think McGorgy could work his way back in this. 2.7 seconds behind. I think he's absolutely still in contention, and he's dropped Grankvist by 2.3 seconds. And McGorgy is really getting the mediums to work well for him at the moment.
Just ahead of Dylan Fisher, you see Matthias Moos, who is now unfortunately Holland Racing Team's only hope in this race, because Pascal Pollens has retired. So we're left with, I think, 22 cars left in this race. And a change, something changed. Stevens got Grankvist, did he? So Stevens up into 4th position. And just ahead of Fisher, you see Moose going past Fletcher up into 8th place. But the big news there is that Tom Stevens, 2nd in the championship, has passed Jan Grankvist, the championship leader, for 4th place on the road. And that would keep him in championship contention mathematically. I'm not really sure why we're talking about the championship so much, since Grankvist has such a lead in it. Of course, the real fight is between Schluter and Stevens for 2nd. Schluter would theoretically take 2nd place in the championship if they were to finish like this, so it's important that Stevens charges on. And there's Dylan Fisher still trying to make up place as well. But yeah, I'd love to, if you have a replay of that, Remco, I'd love to see a replay of Stevens passing Grankvist. I think it was probably a little bit of a straightforward one on the straight. And I'd also love to see what happened to Pascal Pollens. Well, we're going to see a replay of Tom Stevens as he opens the DRS, gets closer and closer to the back of Jan Grankvist, goes to the inside, and it doesn't matter that it's the inside because he's a car length ahead by the time they reach the apex. So Tom Stevens takes 4th position, and his next target will be the podium. He can see Owen McGorgy up ahead of him. And now we're back to real time, and he has actually pulled a 2nd over Jan Grankvist. This is entirely doable for Tom Stevens now, with the sparks flying from the back of the car and another yellow flag out there somewhere. So we'll keep an eye out for any DNFs or drivers losing time. But for the time being, Stevens is 4th, Grankvist is 5th, and we're going to see a replay. And it's Dennis Urban. What's happened to the Green Stripes car towards turn 8? This
doesn't feel good, Caitlin. Oh!
Bang! Into the wall, and that will be a retirement because he's torn a whole corner off that car. And the 4-cornered car ends up being a bit of a tricycle there.
Yeah, the rear quite literally got away from him there. It's pretty unusual. Usually you see someone hit the inside and bounce off it, or they just go too long into the corner and lock up. But yeah, it's very rare you see them just lose the rear end through such a tight, low-speed corner like that. But yeah, poor Dennis Urban, I think the lack of experience at such a tricky part of the track really catching him out there. But certainly he's impressed in that green stripe, especially compared to Hangraf, who's also been pretty impressive himself. He beat Hangraf last time out at Monza, of course, although neither of them got any points for it. But at least his teammate Hangraf still running in 12th, about 2.6 seconds behind Fletcher and holding off Thomas Harvey at the moment. But Tyen, he's really taking a few risks to try and keep Schluter in sight. And you can see Owen McGorgy just consistently lapping 2/10 quicker than them per lap. Stevens himself is also setting personal best as well, 1:41.7 last time around. A little bit of that was, I think, aided with DRS from the lapped car. But yeah, Stevens, despite qualifying 11th, his car has really come alive at this point. So I actually think we're starting to look at a 4-horse race here with 30 laps to go, Caitlin.
I really think so too. Oh, look how close Tyen gets to Schluter using that slipstream. And thank you to Remco for getting us that replay so quickly of the Dennis Urban incident and the Tom Stevens overtake. I do apologise if you can hear my dog in the background. He's got a bit excited. And who can blame him? Dylan Fisher making a move there, 8th position, passing Matthias Moos and improving on his own place on those soft tyres. It's going to be very interesting to see what he does for the rest of this race, because an unorthodox strategy for, did you say both of the AKA Hero cars on soft tyres? Yep. Not quite sure what Hygo Poom has done, but he's running in 17th place. And Loic Mounier gets past Matthias Moos there on the inside. So Mounier now up into 9th position. Still, the order, the positions chopping and changing up and down the order, especially in the top 10.
Well, I didn't realise Grankvist is on the hard, so no wonder Stevens cleared him so quickly then. But that would suggest Grankvist is trying to run a bit longer in this second stint. I don't think he's going to be able to get to the end, and nor for that matter do I think Fletcher is either. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays into the strategy. And I don't blame you, dog, for being a fan of Dylan Fisher, because he's a pretty likable guy and certainly doing well at the moment. But yeah, once he switches onto the mediums, he's got to hope that that car has still got the pace to run in the top 8, top 7 where he is at the moment. There's a 4.5 second gap to Fournier. So Fournier, of course, was one of the very first to pit in 9 laps into the race then. So Fisher has got a bit of a tyre delta at the moment, but Fournier will be settling in nicely. He's lapping about 9/10 slower than Dylan Fisher at the moment, so that gap could disappear quite quickly.
Indeed. So 21 cars remain in this race. We're looking at Sergio Fletcher in 11th position. I've noticed the driver who replaced Janos Brachok in the YouTube chat. Hi, Janos. Hopefully we'll see you back in Super League in due time. I think you're well missed in the field. Here's Thomas Harvey going through on Stein-Hangraf up into 12th position in the Pescara ADG car. That's a team who desperately need points, only 14th of the 15 teams who started the season. And through they go into 12th position. So, as we approach the halfway point, Schluter leads from Tyne, McGorgy, Stevens and Grankvist. Good spot, but Grankvist is on hard tyres. I don't think I would have noticed that otherwise. It's a little bit hard to see sometimes, because sometimes these teams have coloured rings on the inside of the wheels, which are different to the coloured rings on the tyres themselves, and it can make a soft tyre look hard or a hard tyre look medium or whatever. There's Jan Grankvist, 5th place, and you see the white ring on the tyres indicating that they are the hardest compound available. And that of course means he'll theoretically be able to run longer than his opponents, but won't be quite as fast, at least at the start of the stint. Keeping up with Tom relatively well. And it's always intriguing when you see Jan doing something slightly different to the rest of the field, because he's not averse to pulling a bit of a shock strategy. We saw him do that at Silverstone, where of course he won the race by doing just 1 pit stop, whereas everyone else, most other drivers, did 2 stops. Of course, Robin Panzer, who's running behind him in this race, did a very similar thing and scored 2nd in Silverstone as a result of that. But yeah, a little bit worrying for the opposition when you see Jan doing something slightly different, because he can always make it work. Jarl Tyne very close to Schluter. There is DRS down that straight there. He takes a little look. That was a bit speculative. I think just trying to unsettle his rival. Meanwhile, I just saw Tomasz Vok pass Stein-Hangraf for P13. And Heigo Poom's into the pits. Poom, of course, went for 2 stops, or 2 stints on that soft tyre, so not surprising to see him stopping now. Will he go onto the hards and run long? Tomasz Vok, this is his move on Stein-Hangraf. Behind him, there are 2 cars side by side as well. That would be Moritz Kropp and Adam Maguire. Hey, what? Maguire's dropped back in this race, hasn't he? What's happened to him?
Yeah, it was that slow first stop, wasn't it, for Maguire? It was lap 9, so he pit pretty much the same time as Fournier, as we look at the replay of Kropp using the DRS to dispatch Maguire as well. I wonder if maybe he had some damage that needed repairing in the first stint, or perhaps he's still nursing an issue or something, because his progress through the order is not what we would have expected from his strong qualifying as well. So Adam Maguire just struggling to stay in the points then, but he is at least ahead of Jukka-Pekka Lailu from THR's team's championship perspective at least. So THR still looking good to take the lead there, but only 1 place ahead of Jan Grankvist is Tom Stevens, and Maguire still out of the points, just trying to nip into 15th if there's a chance if somebody hits trouble ahead of him, or indeed Dylan Fisher needs to pit for a harder compound.
There are the leaders, very close at the end of the straight, 0.4 of a second in it. There's another DRS zone coming up here. I don't think it's quite close enough for Jarl Tyne, but he is pretty darn feisty at this point. Or it's Kropp just past Stein-Hangraf for 14th place. I think there was also a change slightly higher up. Let me check the timing screen to see if I can figure that one out. But anyway, Lailu also passed Heigo Poom on that lap. I think Poom, well, that might have been a result of Poom's pit stop. But yeah, Adam Maguire, bit of a dismal showing from him, at least since about lap 10 of this race. He was running in the top 5, then I blinked, and now he's 16th. So really not going that well at this point in time. It reminds me of Magorgi a couple of races ago. You can see he's lost 11 places from his starting place. The driver who's gained the most at this point is Dylan Fisher, but that's partly, of course, due to running 2 stints on the soft tyres, whereas most other drivers have at least used the medium tyres. Every driver will have to use 2 compounds of dry weather tyre, providing it doesn't rain. It is a little overcast here, but I don't think rain was on the forecast, so we should be able to get away without it. It was absolutely storming here in England earlier on. Thunderbolts and lightning outside my window. And look at Yartayan. Talking of storming, he's flying down the straight. He's been threatening to do this the last few laps, and now he does go back through into the lead of the race. So once again, the leaders swap around as they've done several times already today, and Yartayan gets through into the lead ahead of Mark Schluter. Great stuff.
Yeah, you could sort of tell the Edgy sports car was struggling just a little bit more with tyre wear, as Kropp now slots himself in between Thomas Harvey and the wall and uses DRS to get up into 13th position to get a few more points for Nocturne. So one Nocturne takes the lead, the other is having pit very late on very fresh tyres, is starting to pick off the lower end of the point scorers. But yeah, Schluter, it'll be interesting to see now. Do Edge go for the undercut here? Because it was a Nocturne that pit first, and it seems that Nocturne is very kind on its tyres as well. The problem for Schluter is if he decides to hang it out and just stay within DRS at Tyne, then potentially they've got Magorgi, who's continuing to just take 0.2 per lap out of Mark Schluter as out of them every lap. So they're in a difficult position here at G Sports, as we see the second edge of Moynier still behind Fisher. So Fisher's been able to keep these softs alive very, very well, and Moynier's not really had a chance to sweep up the inside of him, and now they're both starting to close on Fournier, who's just 1.7 seconds up the road.
This is a fantastic race. The lead has swapped back and forth and back all the way through. Yartayan now leads it. Magorgi is getting closer again. Remember, he started on pole position, and he's now within, he nearly got within 2 seconds of them heading towards the straight. He's 2.2 seconds behind as it stands, as we're just over the halfway point in this race. And Stevens isn't catching fast, but he is catching, bringing that gap down. Jan Grankvist still in contention as well, despite being on harder tyres. He'll run for a bit longer.
Exactly the same lap times, Tyne and Grankvist, 1:42.5 essentially.
Fascinating. Moritz Kropp here, setting up Tomasz Vok, going through side by side, and they've got a car ahead of them, providing a little bit of slipstream. Just behind them as well, Adam Maguire gets back into 14th place. Little dart from Tomasz Vok, takes another look. Not allowing Kropp to get through that easily, but Kropp does go through to P12, so it's Kropp, Vok, Maguire and Harvey at that point in the order. Up in front, Tyne is now threatening to break out of DRS range of Schluter, although I think that was a slightly unrepresentative sector time I just saw. Sometimes you see the gap come in and out depending on where they are, whether they're braking or accelerating. Another yellow flag. Sometimes they can be a bit over optimistic, but
I think that's Zolt's getting into the pits for Stacks. So Stacks were doing well to keep both cars in the race, but Zux, who was the leading of the two Stacks, has hit trouble sadly, and has had to go into the pit lane for what I believe is an unscheduled. Oh no, it might be a scheduled stop, because he did 13 laps on the medium, then 12 laps on the medium. He might be just doing his final stop then. So perhaps everything is okay down there. But yeah, Tyne is really pushing to clear Schluter. The other thing that's going on, Fisher is within 0.8 of Fournier, so I think he's setting him up for a move here. If not, Moynier might lose patience and just go for him before that. So a lot of pressure on Fisher here. Can he keep these softs alive and keep stretching this stint out? Because that is opening the strategy up for him to just pit onto the mediums.
And Zoltschuk's is out of the race, so it wasn't just a scheduled pit stop. And we have 20 cars remaining now, with 19 of those on the lead lap. Little bit of a race of attrition. And I think Dylan Fisher was coming into the pits there. What? So we'll have to wait and see what he does now. Does he go on to... And there's been a change, and that's because, well, Schluter's in the lead. Look at that. Let's take a look at that quickly if we can. Schluter leads. Tyne goes back through on the inside.
Oh!
There's contact. There's contact for the lead. Schluter hits the wall. McGorgy comes through. McGorgy might be about to take the lead. He's on the back of Jarl Tyne. Now I think Tyne must have made a mistake because he broke the second mark, so he was over a second ahead of Mark Schluter. And then all of a sudden Schluter was ahead of him. That's why we didn't see it happen live, because we weren't expecting it to happen. And then as they came together, they literally came together, and Schluter was tipped into a spin with the back of his car bouncing off the barriers. He's very lucky to still have a rear wing here. And look at Stevens. Stevens is in contention now. Jan Grankvist is right up with him. This has suddenly got very spicy up in front, and we have to see a replay of that if you have it, Remco. What on earth happened between Jarl Tyne and Mark Schluter to warrant that incident that we just saw?
I think the steering is cramping a little bit on Schluter's car as well. He was just looking very squirrely. I think Tyne is also very lucky to have escaped damage there as we rode on board with Mark Schluter there. But the big beneficiary of all of this is, of course, Owen McGorgy, who now finds himself in second. And potentially, if Tyne is nursing damage, he's in the box seats now to win this thing.
Yeah, now what's going to happen down towards turn 1? Because McGorgy and Schluter both have the DRS, as does Stevens, who's on the outside. Little bit of a contact between third and fourth place. We've got Schluter and Stevens side by side. This is the fight for second in the championship, don't forget. Stevens nearly gets crowded into the wall. It's Schluter on the left, Stevens on the right, on driver's right that is. Tucks in behind him now, goes to driver's left. That's the inside for the next corner. He goes back through into third position. Does he make the corner? Just about. Schluter tries to duck underneath him. Towards turn 4 they go. This is where Schluter hit the wall a lap ago. Remember, he was leading the race just 1 lap ago. He's down into 4th position. He's on the outside line now and slots into place. Carlos Martin makes a pit stop. Towards the castle section. We go again. McGorgy is absolutely loving this. As you say, I think he might be about to take the lead of the race in the next couple of laps.
I think Grankvist is also grinning ear to ear because all his championship rivals, those two in front, are just tripping over each other. And on those harder tyres, he knows he can just keep running and keep running. These two are almost certainly going to have to pit before he does. And he can just get a nice clear bit of track, potentially run all the way to the end, even if he might be on old tyres later on, and hope maybe hold on to a podium potentially, because I think Tyne or McGorgy will probably be able to get past him now. But yeah, this has gone very much Owen McGorgy's way, but he's still out of DRS range. In fact, Tyne has started to up his pace once more and has actually started to drop McGorgy a tenth in each sector. So yeah, Jarl Tyne, the contact looked controversial. It's difficult to really apportion blame to either party, really, having only seen the end of it, but it was certainly messy, and Tyne is holding onto that lead by the skin of his teeth. McGorgy is going to keep pushing.
Right, we're going to see a replay. This is what we've been waiting for. So Tyne mistake or something, because he's dropped back towards Schluter. Schluter's going to go for a move. He's going to go through on the straight. And this is when we were aware that something had changed, because we saw the timing screen flicker with Schluter going through. Tyne's got a good run on the exit, takes a look to the inside. There's the contact. Oh. And I don't think Tyne was far enough alongside him. I really think he was too far back. We'd have to see it from onboard cameras, but it looks, at least from that point of view, that it was Jarl Tyne's fault. Now we're going to see it from onboard Tyne. He takes a dive. He's nowhere near far enough alongside him. He hasn't warranted enough room, and he takes the lead of the race, in my opinion, unfairly through tipping Mark Schluter into a spin. What do you make of that, Ed?
It looked to me like Jarl was trying to back out of that one, but maybe a little bit too late. It was a bit opportunistic. He saw that Schluter had to go really long into free to make the maneuver, and that hurt his exit slightly, but the space just wasn't quite there. Jarl tried to create it and ended up tipping the Edge Esports car into a spin, and Schluter has dropped off the podium as a result of that, because Stevens has well and truly gotten through here. And he's still able to hold with him, and it's giving Jan Grankvist a healthy amount of DRS, which he won't mind one bit, of course, on those hard tyres. But yeah, Jarl could, even if Owen McGorgy isn't able to overtake, Jarl could find himself in a little bit of trouble after the race. Let's hope that doesn't end up casting a big shadow over this battle here, because otherwise it has been very entertaining.
And I will say, of course, that is not necessarily the opinion of GPWC. That is just my own opinion. I think Jarl Tyne had not warranted being alongside Mark Schluter into that corner, and I think that a penalty would be coming his way if it was reported. But of course, if it goes to an investigation, then I will absolutely leave it up to the steward's discretion. Anyway, here we are on lap 31 of the race. Yartayan leads for now, and he's just under 2 seconds ahead of Owen McGorgy. Tom Stevens is third, then it's Schluter and Grandqvist. Here's Sergio Fletcher on the back of Jeffrey Fournier and Loic Mounier, and just ahead of Moritz Kropp. And into the pits are Thomas Vogt and Stein Hangraf. I was just looking in the broadcast team chat on Discord to see if we've had any updates on anything that's affected the race so far. The only thing I've seen is that apparently Zalagianis and Van der Smissen had contact on the first lap, so that would explain why we saw Zalagianis pit after just 1 lap and Van der Smissen pit after just 2. So thanks to Chris Williamson for taking the time to clear that up for us, as well as of course being the race director, as he always is here in GPWC Super League. And we're about to start the 32nd lap of 51, so it hasn't felt like a long race, but we are drawing towards the end of it now, and we've got to start thinking about this second pit window that will be coming up soon. The leaders pitted on lap 13 or 14 that first time around, and obviously you can go a little bit longer towards the end of the race, and you usually want to. And we're going to go side by side here with Grandqvist, and he's diving. Oh, that's very tight, and he overshoots it. Schluter comes back through on the inside. Grandqvist had to lock up the rear wheels to avoid slamming into Tom Stevens. Did a very good job to hold the car, actually, to not spin the thing around. So Schluter gets away with it there in 4th position. Jan Grandqvist stays 5th. Jeffrey Fournier pits. That will put Moose back up into the top 10 positions. But a very close one there for Jan Grandqvist, and we're going to see a replay. And here we are on board with Jan Grandqvist down the start-finish straight. Slipstreaming Schluter goes to the inside, but he'll overcook it into the braking zone. There he is. He panics slightly because he knows he can't get through on Stevens, and Schluter goes back through on the inside end.
Well, I think not only does he know he can't get through, he doesn't want to clatter into the side of Tom Stevens either, because that way he's taking out his direct championship rival, which is not a great look, to put it mildly. But Jan, just the sight of him seeing Schluter alongside and thinking, I can go for a double move here, and then having to suddenly get on the brakes was deeply amusing to me. But I love to see Jan just absolutely go for that, despite the fact that he's got that big championship lead. You could forgive him for just backing off, taking it easy on those hard tyres. No, he's absolutely going for it. And Schluter now, he wants to go get revenge on Tom Stevens here for picking on him when he was at his weakest after that crash with Yartayan then. McGorgy, by the way, his pace has started to drop off. Tyne has got things back under control.
Yeah. Schluter's got a good run on Stevens here. I think this is a chance. So Schluter, who dropped back in that incident, is getting back past his main rival for second in the driver's standings, and he does go through into 3rd position now, up into 3rd position in this race. And that means, of course, that 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the standings are now 3rd, 4th and 5th on the road, but in reverse order. Sergio Fletcher is making a move on Loic Mounier, goes through, makes it around the corner. He's got Mounier and Kropp for close company behind him. And now down at the second Euro straight.
Because Fletcher and Grandqvist both on the hards, and both showing better pace than those that have ran pretty long on the mediums at this point.
And Maguire's out, sorry. We've had an incident for Adam Maguire in the THR. I saw a yellow flag, and that means that THR only have 1 car remaining. It looked earlier on as if they were set to take the lead in the team's championship, but they no longer look. And and this is a point, this is an accident black spot on the course. There's the contact. He spins the car around, and that contact alone didn't look big enough to take him out of the race, but maybe he lost the engine. Maybe he forgot to put auto clutch back on after the start. We found out from Tom Stevens.
Caitlin, 140.087 before that happened. So he was clearly pitting onto softs and pushing really hard, but that all was not well at the wheel of that car for whatever reason, I don't think, before that happened. So I think Adam Maguire maybe just a bit frustrated that he was in that top pack earlier on, had to make that very long pit stop, and just kept running into issues as the race went on. So of course it puts the pressure off Lalu, who's got himself up to 12th in the second Super Venturi. Is that Stevens going for a pit stop? It is. There we go. So he is the first to pull the trigger, or at least he would be if Owen McGorgy hadn't beaten him to it.
and this will be his last stop. Now, one thing I'm thinking of, as McGorgy is also in the pits, as you say, one thing I'm thinking of is that I reckon they could go to the end of the race on softs here. I think it would be safer to go to the end on mediums, but I think if someone bolted on the softs, you could absolutely do it. Now, Stevens is still on a set of mediums.
I think
TOP Esports. Yeah, TOP Esports have pretty quick pit stops today, don't they? Not only did he jump Adam Maguire in the early stages, but he's, I think, gained time on Stevens in that as well.
He's come out ahead of Sergio Fletcher, crucially. There he is.
There you go. Fletcher still battling with Krop, so he's got Fletcher, Krop and Mounier between himself and Stevens. A very good pit stop from Owen McGorgy and TOP Esports. That is something you can put development points into, of course, the pit crew efficiency. And out in 5th position is Owen McGorgy, and any drivers who leave the last pit stop later than this are definitely leaving themselves open to going on to soft tyres and running to the end from there. Now this means that Jarl Tyen leads the race by 5.5 seconds now over Mark Schluter, but of course we know that the undercut is valuable here. McGorgy was his closest contender, and if McGorgy can really push now, then he could put Tyen under pressure, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jarl Tyen comes into the pits on this lap. We're looking back from Fletcher towards Krop, the blue flame shooting out the back of the car, and what happens on this lap, Ed?
We'll find out, I guess, but...
Schluter's in.
Oh, there we go, Schluter in then from...
So Tyen stays out. Tyen and Grangfist have stayed out. Mark Schluter's in the pits. Now we're going to see Moritz Krop go for a move, and this is on Sergio Fletcher. And through he goes on the straight. They're both going to get ahead of Schluter and Robin Pansar, who's in the pits now. There's Mark Schluter on the exit. Medium tyres. His teammate goes through, like Mounier.
There's Stevens, and Stevens is behind.
So Schluter comes out just ahead of Tom Stevens. These two will go to the end. They'll fight to the end of the race. It's very important, not just in terms of the race, not just in terms of the championship. And they're going to go, ooh, it looked as if Stevens was going to go for a move there. Mounier is going to leave the door wide open for both of them. Of course, didn't want to hold up his teammate. And through goes Mark Schluter. And the next target is Sergio Fletcher on those old hard tyres, who will presumably pit very soon indeed. So Tyen leads from Grangfist and McGorgy. All three... No, sorry, the top two still have to stop. McGorgy has made his last pit stop. It'll be 2 stops for all of these drivers.
McGorgy is getting into undercut range on Tyen here, so this is very, very interesting indeed. As look at Schluter now starting to spin the wheels behind the Adonis of Sergio Fletcher, who's doing a fantastic job to still be even halfway competitive on those worn hard tyres. I think you're right, Caitlin. Grantfist and Fletcher on very similar strategies here, running long on the hards and pit for softs later in the race then to go to the end. That will probably be the optimal strategy here, as Schluter needs to make this move now. This is absolutely critical to escape from Tom Stevens here.
Tyen and Grangfist are in. Tyen and Grangfist both in from the lead of the race. So what will happen between them and Owen McGorgy, who will be right with them on pit exit? Schluter is side by side with Fletcher. He will get through on the straight, so he gains time as well. He is still in contention for this race. Here's McGorgy side by side with Tyen. It's going to be close into turn 2, and Tyen just about covers him off. Jarl Tyen maintains the lead of the race, but only just. Now, what tyres is he on? We didn't see what tyres he's on. He had a choice of compounds. Medium tyres. Okay, Grangfist goes soft. Grangfist goes soft. He will have the faster tyres at this point in the race, but he's behind Sergio Fletcher, behind Tom Stevens and Mark Schluter. Okay, very interesting indeed. 15 laps to go. Soft tyres can definitely do this. They did at the start of the race, and they will do with the lighter cars. I've noticed McGorgy taking way more curb than anyone else into that corner pretty much every lap so far in this race. He obviously knows the limits, and Fletcher just dropped behind Grangfist. I noticed someone, I think he skipped the chicane potentially in the background, maybe got it a little bit wrong, and Grangfist was able to go through into 6th place, and he will join Tom Stevens in due time. Here are the leaders, Jarl Tyen, Owen McGorgy, very, very close after their stop. 15 laps to go in this race. It is anyone's game.
But these two start on the front row, and with 15 laps to go, it's either of them could come away on top here. But yeah, certainly they've got a little bit of a gap to Schluter behind, who's still got Stevens 2 tenths behind him as well. But look at this, McGorgy's not, again, he didn't get the run out of turn 16 that he needed. I think he was really banking on that undercut, and it's not quite worked out for him. He will get DRS, but he just doesn't quite have the run that he needs to take the lead here. So Dalton is going to hold on for the start of lap 37.
Oh, well, he's very close. You can see him approaching like a wolf on the hunt as he gets close to the back of Jarl Tyen's car. And then into another DRS zone, but he won't quite be close enough there. It's a long straight. Sergio Fletcher into the pits. So was that Ed?
Schluter's picked off Kropp because Kropp was running long once again, and so that has released him very much. And now Kropp is actually letting Tom Stevens through, which is interesting. I thought Nocturne and THR, while they've got close links, you're not strictly supposed to let someone from a different team just through without a fight, because now he's got right back in front of Grankvist, who I don't think he's going to let through quite as easily. But that was interesting.
Well, they always do it. They keep no secret that they are two very closely linked organisations. They have the same parent organisation. And Tom Stevens able to get through into 4th position. There's Mark Schluter in 3rd place. Stevens chasing him down. Here's a replay. Not sure of what just yet, but I'm sure we're about to see. And this is Mark Schluter. And this is how he got past Moritz Kropp. Kropp, of course, on the older tyres, so this was relatively straightforward for him. And it was never going to be long before Tom Stevens followed him through. So Schluter on the charge. If anything happens between the top two, he could still be in contention for this win. And as you, I'm sure, spotted there, Moritz Kropp had a big twitch, only just held the car. Grankvist is now on his tail. Kropp, I think,
Kropp has only been left out to protect Tyen here by holding up Schluter, Stevens and Grankvist, essentially. And look at this, McGorgy closer yet again.
McGorgy! And he goes for the lead, and Tyen knew he couldn't fight it. Did you see that? Tyen lifted out of the throttle early because he knew he couldn't fight it. He wanted to set up for the exit of the corner, and for the second DRS straight, here we go. He gets the DRS. Will Tyen be able to come back at him? I'm not sure he'll quite be close enough. Kropp did pit on that last lap, by the way. So Tyen not able to get past McGorgy. McGorgy does retake the lead of the race, which he lost early on after starting on pole position. And with just 13 laps to go in this race, 14 including the one that they're on, McGorgy gets the upper hand. He could still win this race. It's between him, Jarl Tyen, Mark Schluter potentially. He's a little bit of an outside shot now, but he's still in contention. You can see McGorgy still taking the curbs. His car clearly very capable of taking the curbs, running over them and not losing control. It's always quite a satisfying thing when you know your car can do that. That's one of the things I struggled with in the FS2 race earlier on, or last week. I'd take the curbs and the car would lose control, so I had to keep well clear of them. And there's McGorgy taking yet more curb, heading towards the final sector of this particular lap. Tyen will still have DRS. He's not close enough for a move. 8 tenths of a second is the gap. You need to be about 5 or 6 tenths behind as you head into this flat-out section in order to really benefit from that. Of course, it does depend from time to time because they do have push to pass, which they can use up if they have any left whatsoever. You can see how beneficial the slipstream is, and the DRS, he was much closer at the end of the straight than at the start of it. But to overtake, you don't just have to be faster, you have to be close enough to get alongside the car you're fighting with. And here we go again. 13 laps left, including the one that we're on. Ed, this is so much more exciting than the last Grand Prix. I'm really excited to see that GPVWC is back. And look at Jan Grankvist now charging, going around the outside of Tom Stevens. Not quite close enough to get the inside line, but surely this is only a matter of time here. Grankvist on those soft tyres. They will carry him through to the end of the race. He will be quicker at this point, and he will be thirsty to get through, because if he's held up behind Stevens, he may lose his chance of a podium.
Yeah, the tyres going to be at their best now, aren't they? So he needs to make the move as soon as possible. And there's Schluter starting to get away at this point as well. So whatever damage Schluter had, he seems to have found a way to work around it. Maybe the new tyres are certainly playing their part too. But yeah, McGorgy is struggling to build that gap to Tyan, and Tyan has just got him on the end of a little string, and whenever he wants to, he can just pull that and potentially...
Sorry, there was a
slingshot
change
way back
there.
through.
I'm sure I just saw a change near the front of the order. Who was that? Was that... Well, something changed. I noticed Thomas Harvey passed Matthias Moos. I'm sure I saw a little flicker on the timing screen, but they all seem to be in the same order. I'll watch back on the stream to see if anything did change. Sir, if I got anyone excited
for the
for no
lead,
reason.
Caitlin, and that's Yaltine retaking it from Owen McGorgy. So McGorgy once again didn't get the run he needed, and Grankvist has picked off Tom Stevens for 4th as well.
Grankvist does get Stevens, but as you say, the most important thing on that lap is that Yaltine has retaken the lead of the race with 12 laps to go, including the one that we're on. Goodness me, we have such a fight on our hands here, as we have done for the whole race. Earlier on, it was between Tyan and Schluter. McGorgy dropped back at the start. He got himself back in contention in this second pit window. He is fighting for the lead still. He won't let Tyan get away. Goodness me, this is exciting stuff. Grankvist, of course, is an outside shot with those soft tyres. I don't think he will win this race, but he'll certainly fight for it. I think he's still in contention for a podium. He's more than in contention. Look, he's already pulling in that gap on Mark Schluter, so do not count out Jan Grankvist just yet. Here's Tyan, here's McGorgy through the middle sector of the circuit. If McGorgy can keep himself about 0.6 of a second behind Tyan on the exit of the 90-degree left-hander after this corner, then he has a good chance of taking the lead into turn 1. I've lost track of the number of lead changes so far this race. I think he's gonna challenge for it. He's close. Here we are through the sweepers. He's got to make sure to get this right. You can lose so much time if you get yourself out of the rhythm through there. He'll open the DRS. He's half a second back now. The rear wing is wide open as he gets towards turn 1. He wasn't quite close enough. Maybe he's out of push to pass. Of course, it's always hard to tell. We don't like to bring up push to pass that much because we simply don't have any way of knowing for sure when the drivers are using it. And there's the second DRS zone.
Yaltine, did you see how late he had to break into turn 1 just to make sure there was no chance of any last-minute dive from McGorgy, and he just about avoided the wall on the outside. So Tyan, no mistake, he is at the absolute limit here. He may have a slight straight-line speed advantage, maybe a little push to pass in reserve at this point. But yeah, McGorgy is pushing him to the absolute limit and potentially beyond as well, as it looks like Grankvist has set really almost the fastest lap of the race there, 140.6, 2 purple first sectors there. So he is absolutely flying in his pursuit of Schluter. Is he going to run out of laps before he can catch McGorgy and Tyan here? Because this has suddenly become extremely tasty indeed.
I tell you what, it's almost a tinge of disappointment hanging over the top two, because if they had run the full championship, I think this race shows you that they would definitely have been contenders for the overall title. McGorgy, of course, won the Australian Grand Prix at the start of the year and then took a lot of time out so he could focus on his successful FSR campaign. And Yaltine has had to take some time out because, of course, he works on some Thursdays, and that's why he hasn't driven the whole season. But despite missing 5 or 6 rounds, he's still done well enough to be 8th in the championship standings. They're on the straight again, and this is Jan Grankvist lining up Mark Schluter for 3rd. It's a late move. He goes to the inside. Does he make the corner? Oh, that's close. He runs very wide on the exit, actually slightly over the white line, but I don't think it was far enough to trigger the track limits warning. But Grankvist does get through into 3rd position. And does he have enough on those soft tyres to gain the 5 seconds that would put him into contention for this race win? We could end up, if he's fast enough, with a 3-way fight for the lead towards the end of this race. Jan Grankvist is in the podium places. And importantly, how many points would he be scoring if he finished here? 3rd place is worth 16 points in the championship. 5th is worth 11. So he wouldn't quite wrap the championship up on Tom Stevens. How much is 4th place worth? 13 points. So he would knock Schluter out of contention. He would knock Schluter out of mathematical contention. He would very nearly wrap it up against Stevens. Stevens would just about make it go on to the next round, but my goodness, Jan Granqvist is running away with this championship.
Yeah, that was a not only an important pass for his championship, but a very bold one as well. 1:39.8 he set on that lap with that overspeed, so fastest lap of the race quite comfortably. Took 2 seconds out of Tyne and McGorgy on that lap alone. The only problem was that he set a time in the first sector about half a second slower because he had to complete the move on Schluter. But let's look here. We're looking at the moment at Fischer, who of course started down in 20th. And on his alternate strategy, Fischer, currently on the hard tyres, just trying to keep Geoffrey Fournier at bay, is running in a very, very impressive 6th position. So Fischer, after 2 pretty bruising rounds, it's great to see him not only have a clean race, but outsmart those around him and play the strategy to his advantage. Let's hope for his sake, the hards can hold on, because otherwise Fournier on those mediums can give him a lot of grief at the end of this one.
McGorgy, DRS wide open on Tyne. We haven't mentioned Fischer that much, but you're right. It's and Fournier's just lost a place to Krop, so Krop's through into 7th now. Anyway, it's a slightly inopportunistic strategy, as Munier and Panzer are side by side. But it seems to be working out for Dylan Fischer, who's up 14 places from his starting place and seems to have the pace to hold off Moritz Krop and Geoffrey Fournier. And even if he doesn't, 7th or 8th place would still be very impressive for that race. And still side by side are Loic Munier and Robin Panzer fighting over 10th position. Panzer has it for the time being. Both of the Adonis engineering cars are just inside of the top 10. So, Loic Munier, Edge Esports, trying to get himself back in the fight. Jan Granqvist has already taken half a second out of the top 2. I'll update you on the gap as they cross the start-finish line, but Granqvist, I still think he's in with a chance here. It's an outside chance, but he's going quickly. And here are Tyne and McGorgy.
Certainly not going to be easy, but as we look at Granqvist just extending his gap to Schluter, I think he would absolutely take 3rd, given that at one point he was in 5th and just starting to just fall behind on the harder tyres. It was that collision between Tyne and Schluter that really opened things up for him to get on the podium here. And indeed, it sort of opened things up for McGorgy too. But Tyne, on the road at least, is doing just enough to hold McGorgy off. But things could get very, very interesting if Granqvist is able to catch. He's got the gap below 4 seconds now. 3.8 is the live gap, I think, at the present moment.
He was 7 tenths faster on that last lap. Now, obviously, we don't have that long to go in this race. So at this rate, I don't think he would quite catch them, but he'd be very close. He would be very close. And
the other issue is if he chews through the softs too quickly, then Schluter could get him at the end as well. So he needs to be careful of that.
But also, if Tyne and McGorgy start fighting at a place on the circuit that isn't a straight, they will be losing time. Granqvist will be gaining. This really could still go anyone's way, at least in the top 3, maybe even 4, because Schluter's following Granqvist closely. And I know we're doing a lot of speculating here, but that's what you have to do in a race which is so up in the air, where you really cannot see how it's going to unfold. I've just noticed Jukka-Pekka Lalu is outside of the top 15 again, so Super Venturi and THR would each only have 1 driver scoring points in this race if it was to finish now. It looks as if that will be the case.
Lalu pit for softs about 7 laps ago, so he's trying to cut a 7-second gap to Hygo Poom then, who was on 20 lap old hard tyres, I believe, and trying to get to the end.
Close again for McGorgy. Not close enough, but very close. I'm going to see who's got fastest lap, actually. Looks like it's currently Jan Granqvist, so it wouldn't make sense for Lalu to take fastest lap. That's not necessarily what he's going for, but I'm sure he wouldn't necessarily mind.
I think Lalu was just worried about tyre life, because we saw he was trying to extend on the mediums in that first stint, and he had to pit after about 17 laps, didn't he? As Krop has picked off Dylan Fischer into the first corner then, so Moritz Krop up to P6 on his alternate strategy then. So not much that Dylan Fischer could do, but he made a good fight of that one.
So, Krop is 6th, Fischer 7th. Fischer should still be very proud of that. And even if he drops behind Fournier, to be honest, I'd still say that 8th is a good result for him, especially with the strategy he was on. Seems to have made it work. Thomas Harvey P14, Pescara ADG. Like I said earlier, they need these points. Carlos Martin ahead of him, despite losing his front wing earlier on. We didn't exactly see how that happened, but presumably Martin made a mistake out there somewhere, possibly turn 8. And has done decently well to get himself back into the points, although admittedly there has been a lot of attrition today.
Well, it's Baku. I don't think we expected any less, did we, Caitlin? But,
No.
But yeah, certainly it creates opportunities for those a little bit further down the field. Certainly, I think it's basically a four-way fight between Moose, Poom, Handgraf and Lalu for the final point at the moment. But yeah, Martin just trying to get a few more points for TOP, who I forget where they are. They're still third in the Teams Championship, aren't they? About 10 points ahead of Adonis. So this is important for them just to maintain their stranglehold on that third position, which is, of course, for the reigning FS1 champions, would be a big result for them in the teams table.
Yeah, seems to be a bit of a glitch on the official GPVWC 2024 standings, because Adonis are showing us having 6 more points than Edge Esports, and yet they're showing us being in position 5 rather than position 4. So I think something's gone a little bit wrong today, but that's okay. We still know what it means. Carlos Martin now up into 12th place, passing Tomasz Wok down the straight. 6 laps to go, including the one that we are on. And there are the top 2, who are still fighting for this win.
Yeah, Tyan set a 140.8 the previous lap to just gain those 3 temps on McGorgy. That's all pretty much from the straight, the start-finish straight. Grankvist set a 141.3, so 2 temps slower than McGorgy. So he started conserving the softs because he's recognised the threat from Schluter behind. He can't pull away quickly enough. So he's got to sort of make sure he's got tyres at the end to race with, because otherwise he'll just be a sitting duck and lose that podium.
So, once again, Owen McGorgy will have DRS. Lost a couple of tenths per second in the sweepers, but that tends to happen due to the turbulent air. He won't be close enough for a move, but that's the story of the last few laps. He's just biding his time. Maybe he knows that he can
push to pass as well, because we saw a comment in the chat from Sandeep Singh a while ago now, but he said that he had about 60 seconds of push to pass left to use as he sees fit. So it'll be interesting to see if he's going to use that all on the final lap, or if Tyan indeed is going to try and do the same thing. As we look at in behind, Grankvist has got Schluter 6 tenths behind him as well and nipping at his heels.
Tell you what, if he used push to pass on every straight on a lap, you know, he could use that push to pass pretty much all the time for the next 2 laps. That's how much he's got left. So if that is true, then he probably could still pass Yartime. Maybe he knows that he can do that, and he's worried that if he did, Yartime would pass him back on the last lap. So we could see a last lap pass from Owen McGorky, just because that's the best time to make an overtake. It's the time where your opponents have nothing to say to it. Of course, the disadvantage with that is that if you don't make it work, if they've reserved their push to pass as well, or if you've not quite managed to make the move stick properly, then that's your last chance. Tough luck. But anyway, Max Schluter still keeping DRS from Jan Grankvist. Grankvist's pace has dropped off a bit, so it looks like he's no longer in contention for the win unless something dramatic happens between these top 2. But he gave it a good go, and he'll still be on the podium. Down the start-finish straight we go again. We will go on to lap 48 of 51, so 4 laps to go now. Here we are into the first corner of this lap. We're on board with Owen McGorgy, TOP Esports, the team in just their first year of GPWC Super League competition, who won their very first Grand Prix with this man, Owen McGorgy, who is a fantastic driver, who I very much expect to see winning races again in GPWC Super League. And I tell you what, even though we saw that collision earlier on between Tyan and Grankvist, because we saw that incident earlier on between Tyan and Schluter, sorry, not Grankvist, I very much hope we don't end up seeing the race decided in the stewards' room after after it's all said and done. I think that's always a little bit disappointing when it happens. It might actually, at the risk of sounding a bit partisan, it might be best if Owen McGorgy does pass Yartayan before the end of this race, but he might not necessarily need to.
Well, it depends if Edge Esports file a I think Mark Schluter with championship points up for grabs. I think he might well do, but we'll have to see really. But it would depend on the what sort of penalty they would attribute to Tyan, or if they decide it's a racing incident entirely. But I think that really remains to be seen. But McGorgy, you can sort of tell, having undercut, that he's had to push the tyres that little bit more than the Yartayan, and the Nocturne, I think, was a little bit better at saving its tyres, wasn't it, in the first 2 stints?
Yeah.
So McGorgy is just running out of road.
Oh, look how close he is.
There was no point making a risky dive there. McGorgy knows he's still got enough laps to do it. He can wait till the final one, but Schluter is going for it on Grankvist. Grankvist is still there on the outside, but Schluter just muscles his way past, and that's Edge back on the podium.
And we've got more drama as well. I've just been messaged by the team boss of Nocturne, Toby Davis, who says that Yartayan is tight on fuel and needs to save before the end of the race. Now that is not exactly compliant with going quickly. Little bit of a twitch with Owen McGorgy, but yeah, the way you save fuel in these cars, of course, is by lifting off and by using lower engine maps than you otherwise would do. And that, of course, means that Tyan has some work on his hands to not just hold off Owen McGorgy, but to do it and actually finish this race. And I'm being told that both of the Nocturne drivers, so Moritz Kropp as well, are very tight on fuel. This is very exciting stuff towards the end of the race. Little bit of a kick of oversteer from McGorgy. You can tell he's pushing hard. If I was his team boss now, I'd be saying, come on, you just gotta keep it on the road. You could win this race even by finishing second on the road. But of course, McGorgy will want to go for it, and he still has every chance to do so. Probably not close enough on the straight, unless Tyan is forced to lift to save fuel. But Ed, this is very tense in the latter state. Oh, and Thomas Harvey's out of the race. That's a big shame. Pescara were on for some points today. And now we are down to just 18 cars left as we watch McGorgy and Tyan on the straight, catching a back marker.
Yeah, crucially, that means Lalu is 9/10 behind Hugo Pumna in the battle for the final point then, so that's key for Super Venturi. That 1 point could be the difference between being team's champions and losing out to THR at the end of the season. But yes, McGorgy, we don't know how low he is on fuel as well, though, so TOP, and I think McGorgy's also the team owner of TOP as well, so I don't think he'd be telling himself information that he wouldn't know, but maybe somebody in the TOP informing him, as there's Harvey, who clearly had some sort of issue, had to go into the pits to retire. So sadly, that is Pescara ADG's days done. As we look at Dylan Fisher, who started to fight back a little bit against Moritz Kropp. And yeah, this is where we saw this with Grankvist. Those who went for the soft tyre are now having to really conserve for these final couple of laps. And it's opening the door for Dylan Fisher to maybe sneak his way back into 6th position.
That's a good point about McGorgy. I'd forgotten that he was an owner driver. There's a couple on the grid, of course. Like Mounier is also an owner driver in his own team, and I may be forgetting some others. I'm sure I am. But anyway, Dylan Fisher, 7th place, may still have a chance to get past Moritz Kropp if he is also forced to save fuel. We're on the penultimate lap of this race, a very exciting race. And I tell you what, the end of this lap might be Owen McGorgy's last chance, because it will be... Well, actually, he'll still get... What happened?
That looked like a Van der Smissen having a big connection issue, just sliding off into 16, and he's come out just ahead of Schluter. Oh, luckily he doesn't hit Mark Schluter, but that was a little closer than I think either of them intended.
I don't think it was a connection issue. I think he did genuinely fly off the road because there was damage as he rejoined. You saw him crabbing a bit. So Van der Smissen having an incident. Final lap of the race now. Final chance for Owen McGorgy to win this race on the road, or maybe even to win this race outright. We're heading into the DRS zone. He will, of course, get most of the straight, most of the last straight before the start-finish line. If he has any push to pass, he will have to use it this time around. He'll have to keep with Yartayan. Look how much he is pushing here. And I know I've been talking the last few laps as if Yartayan will be getting a penalty. Of course, we don't know. And I remember a couple of years ago, or last year actually, at the Italian Grand Prix, Tyne had a bit of a question mark hanging over him after an incident with another driver and ended up being allowed to keep the win because the accident itself was not reported. So there's every chance that that could happen again today, and we have to take it as we see it. Jarl Tyne is leading this race by just half a second over Owen McGorgy on the last lap of the race. I think Sergio Fletcher's had an incident. He's just dropped 2 places behind Fournier and Panzer, but keep watching these top 2 because they will be right together coming up to the finish line. How close will McGorgy be to the back of Tyne on the exit of this corner? This is crucial. 6/10. He might just be close enough. I'm not sure he will be unless Tyne is having to save fuel to the line, unless he runs it to the... I think Tyne's got it. I think he's got it in the bag. Here we come to the line, and Jarl Tyne has fended off Owen McGorgy. He's driven absolutely fantastically. There's a little bit of a question mark hanging over him, but he does win the race. Jarl Tyne wins for the 2nd time in a row. McGorgy is 2nd. He's back on the podium for the first time since the very start of the season. Mark Schluter will be 3rd, theoretically keeps his championship hopes alive. Jan Grankvist will be 4th. So Schluter passed Grankvist in the latter stages. I'm
so
Fischer
much close to Krop here as they go towards the line. Caitlin is
Fischer's going to get 6th. Fischer slipstreams Krops to the line. He gets 6th place. Sorry.
Looks like Moritz Krop ran out of fuel there a little bit.
Oh, Moritz Krop might be about to be passed as well. Panzer gets 7th. Fournier gets 8th. Fletcher gets 9th. Krop did run out of fuel before the line, but he will maintain 10th position. Sorry, so much has happened towards the end of the race. I've forgotten whether we saw Schluter pass Grankvist or not, but Schluter was 3rd in the end, Grankvist 4th, then Stevens, Fischer, Panzer, Fournier, Fletcher and Krop. The championship goes to the next round for both Schluter and Stevens, but Grankvist will have every chance of wrapping it up. Here's the incident that we saw very briefly for Justin van der Smissen, who wasn't on for points anyway, but did not score any points after this. There's the incident. It wasn't a connection issue. He did just slide off the road and then resumed, but with damage. Oh, what a dramatic end to this race.
You see the cooldown lap that Mark Schluter pulled at turn 3 just to the outside of Jarl Tyne and made a little bit of contact as if to cheekily say, don't do that again, Jarl.
Not happy. Reminds me of Sebastian Vettel with Lewis Hamilton in 2017. But yeah, goodness me, what a race we've just seen. Ed, sorry, no, let's run through the order first. So Jarl Tyne finished in 1st position, less than a second ahead of Owen McGorgy. Then it was Schluter and Grankvist, then Tom Stevens, Dylan Fischer, Robin Panzer, Jeffrey Fournier, Sergio Fletcher and Moritz Krop. So Fletcher in the top 10 once again. Loic Mounier P11, then Carlos Martin, Tomasz Vork, Matthias Moos and Jakub Pekalalu, who did salvage a point at the end of that one. Stein Hangraf P16, Heiko Poom P17, then Justin van der Smissen. And a race of attrition claimed Thomas Harvey and Adam Maguire, as well as 8 other drivers, 7 other drivers. Zolt Schukes, Dennis Urban, Pascal Pollens, Fabio Sixter, Pavel Andrzejewski, George Zalagianis and Philip Pushke. I rather missed that actually. Did we see Schluter's move on Grankvist? Did you see that?
We did.
We did, okay.
3 or 4 laps to go, I think.
See, that's the problem with a race this dramatic. Something can happen and it just completely slips your mind because you're focusing on something else.
I'm focusing on everything, Caitlin. You can't afford to be off the ball. I'm an FS1 commentator. But anyway, it's no less dramatic in Superleague. Often it more so, actually. As we're about to see a replay of this is that move, actually. Just to refresh your memory, Caitlin, here is Mark Schluter on lap 49, 48, just getting alongside. And it was a little bit tight between the two. But there was just enough space. I think Jan had to sort of admit defeat there. But he did well to hold on for as long as he did. But once he knew he couldn't pull the gap on the softs, Schluter just had the consistent tyre life to get through there and get in within DRS range. But yeah, for Jarl Tyne, if he indeed was suffering fuel issues and the fact that Krop ran out on the run to the line very much suggests that he was as well, then he did incredibly well, not only to hold on to the lead and not let Owen McGorgy take advantage, but to save fuel as well in the process, I think is very impressive. Although, like we say, the collision with Schluter maybe, I'm sure Mark would rather that hadn't happened, and certainly it would have been lovely to see a freeway fight for the win, but what we were treated to was still an absolutely excellent motor race, so let's not lose sight of that.
I still think this race may not be over yet. In all respect to Jarl Tyen, as much as I really think he drove well, I would love to hear his point of view and Mark's point of view. But I personally think that if that went to the steward's room and I was a steward, then Owen McGorgy would be winning this race. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Speaking of Owen McGorgy, he's jumped into the interview room, so we can go to our interview screen. Owen, second place, but so close. How was that for you?
That was weird. I did not expect to be P2. Well, I only really started practicing like 2 days ago. I did a few laps. Then I did a few
Really?
laps. Yeah, I did a few laps today, but yeah. So I was expecting, maybe quali will be all right because usually give it quali, and then I'll just drop back in the race like I have done in the past two. But I didn't, and I mean, I dropped off in the first stint, and then I just got it all back somehow, and then yeah, I overtook Schluter after whatever happened between him and Jarl, and then I just stuck on the back of Jarl for the rest of the race.
Well, you said that qualifying would be decent. It very much was. You took pole position. Was that a bit unexpected, or how did you do that?
It was unexpected before I joined the practice session. Once I joined the practice session, I was 3 tenths ahead of everyone. Then I thought, oh, okay, I might be a bit fast. But I knew Carlos was quicker, but he just couldn't get the laps together with the change in rubber or whatever. But I mean, quali was a bit closer than I thought it was going to be after doing the 0.0 in practice. But you know, I took it as it was, and I thought, thank you very much, guys, for being a bit slower than me, and hoped that I wouldn't be awful in the race, and I wasn't.
Yeah, you very much weren't awful. That was great stuff. And significantly better than the last two races, so something's clearly clicked for you. But what a battle that was with Jarl, with Mark. Even Jan was involved for a lot of that as well. Good racing out there. Was it all clean, or what did you make of that?
I didn't really race anyone, to be fair. I just started behind Jarl. I overtook him once or maybe twice, but we weren't fighting. I didn't want to fight with him because we would just lose time to the guys behind. And he was quicker than me. I was just stuck in his DRS. I was expecting the tires to drop off at the end, but they didn't until the final fast chicane. But yeah, everything was clean, which was nice.
And just quickly, the last time we spoke to you was way back in, I think it was round 3 of the championship, where you told us you weren't going to be back until right towards the end. What enticed you to come back in the end, and are you expecting to do the rest of the season?
I told Carlos that I would come back. To be fair, I didn't really want to come back after driving in FSR. I still don't really want to drive, but I promised Carlos that I would drive, and I've got to hold by that. I've got to do my driving, and hopefully every race from now on goes the same as Baku. But it just depends if I even decide to practice.
Wow, very interesting. I hope you do. I hope you keep turning up. I think if you did a full season of this, you'd be up there for the championship. But yeah, very good to see you doing so well today, and well done on turning around your form of the last 2 races.
Cheers.
So that was Owen McGorgy. We can now speak to the race winner, Jarl Tyen. Hi, Jarl. How are you?
Hey, I'm good.
Jarl, before we talk about anything else, I would like to quickly say, or I would like to quickly bring up that incident with Mark Schluter. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, that was a tricky one. It was. It all started with me making some mistakes. I personally felt like I was driving pretty bad the whole race, but I somehow managed to squeeze the win. But yeah, it started with me locking up the rears into turn 2, and then I was on the back foot down the straight. And then my intention was to brake pretty late and try to repass Schluter, but just as I saw he had no intention of giving me any space, he was going to turn in. I had no time to back out, so I felt like he wasn't ever going to give me space, even if I brake late. So it was going to be contact either way. I just had no time to react. But obviously there was no intention to race dirty or anything like that.
Do you expect anything will come of it?
Personally, no, I don't think so. It was I would say it's a racing incident with no malice, and he didn't really get any. He might have got a little bit of damage, but it didn't really hurt him that bad in the race.
Well, aside from that, it was a very good race, very close fight with Owen, with Mark. How did it look from your point of view, and how did you end up coming out on top?
We once again worked really hard with the setup this week, and our trend from Monza continues. But obviously, this track is a race of attrition, so it's hard to be consistent no matter how good your setup is at this track. But yeah, I expected my pace to be a bit stronger, but it's all about being confident and getting the tires into a certain window that sometimes fell out of the window for me during the race. Trying to break the DRS from both Mark in the first stint and Owen in the final stint. And I was on the verge many times, but they were just about able to keep in to the DRS. And yeah, when you're trying to push to break that gap, you then overdo your tires a little bit. But yeah, just about kept it in P1 at the end.
Oh, yeah. Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yeah,
how marginal were you on fuel at the very, very end of the race? Because Toby Davies was telling us that I think you and Moritz, he said, were a little bit low on fuel, and Moritz did run out on the run to the line and fell down to 10th. I'm not quite sure how if you were able to manage saving fuel with Owen McGorgy of all people pushing it like crazy in the final 20 laps or so of that race. So I'd love to know what the situation was from your point of view on that front.
I finished with 2 liters of fuel, so I had plenty of fuel.
Okay, right. It must have just been Moritz who was talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I think
I'm trying to lionize you into an even bigger hero. I'm sorry.
I think he might have had some damage that slowed him down in the straight line, and obviously that uses a bit more fuel. But at the same time, I was keeping an eye on my fuel the whole race. And when running by myself up front, I would actually run out of fuel. That's why I made sure to let Owen by a couple times, as well as Mark in the first stint, to do a couple laps of fuel saving to then repass them later on. So it was a kind of double whammy in terms of saving fuel and saving tires for a couple laps and then repass them.
I had something.
Owen wants to add something. Okay, go on, Owen.
I had 9 liters left at the end of the
race. You were doing nothing but saving fuel then, Owen. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
With that wing, I don't know how you did that.
I started with 144.
Oh my god.
Oh god, that's a Charlotte Mennick style strategy. Just plonk in as much fuel as possible. And then hope you're not too slow down the straight. But anyway, y'all. Yeah. But anyway, y'all, that's your 3rd career Super League win. 2 in a row as well.
It's not my 3rd win.
Is it? Oh, have you won more I've forgotten about?
2018.
Oh, right. Okay. You've had a longer career. So the 2018 was before I came along. So it's
all right. I don't know the exact number. I think it's the 6th or 7th. I can't remember.
Okay. At least 4 wins, possibly more. But is that the first time you've done 2 in a row, though, y'all? So you must be pretty proud of that, because I think the only other person who's got consecutive wins this season is Grankvist.
Well, Grankvist is a astonishing driving, so yeah, that's something I'll take with me.
Well, yeah, I'll fill you in on that, sorry. That was your 6th victory, because you took 3 back in 2018. Do you reckon you can match your 2018 tally? I know you've done fewer races, but surely a 3rd win's not too far away.
Well, I'm not really the one supposed to get the wins. I wanted THR to get the wins. But obviously, we'll try to...
Doing too good a job, y'all.
We'll try to do our best job the rest of the season. I wanna get them up there.
A bit of a case of mission failed successfully. I'd take that.
Sure, I guess.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us, Jarl, and congratulations on winning your 2nd race in.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
Okie dokie. So, third place at the end of all of that was Mark Schluter. We can speak to Mark quickly. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you. Now, we were just talking to Jarl, who of course crossed the line first. Without meaning to start anything in the commentary box, what did you make of the little collision that you had with Jarl?
Well, firstly he made a mistake out of turn 2, so instead of staying behind, I think I did the right thing to try and overtake into turn 3. I think he wanted to make up for his mistake there and dive in turn 4, which was just I think the dumbest, not the best idea he did this race. He never was alongside that that he is entitled to space. I think only his like front part of his end blade was at my rearest part of my rear tire, so that's not enough to be given space. And it only happened when I was turning in. I was thinking he will back down. He didn't, and then I got sent into the wall. I was lucky that I kept my rear wing, and luckily my car wasn't bent. But I think that incident cost me a shot at the win, or at least P2.
So, I mean, well done on continuing to word that diplomatically, but do you expect
This
anything
isn't the
to come of
FIA,
this?
by the way, Mark. So you can say what you want without
Of
fear
course.
of repercussions. But it was nice of you to be kind to Jarl there.
But yeah, do you expect anything to come of it, Mark?
Even if there is something coming, I think it will only be 5 seconds. I'm 8 seconds down, so it doesn't benefit me if there will be a penalty.
Fair enough. Well, again, well done for not starting anything in the commentary box. I know that Jarl is listening in, but Mark, aside from that, we've got to talk about the rest of the race because you still did a very good job. You led it several times. It was an incredible fight between you, Jarl, and Owen McGorgy, even Jan Grankvist towards the end. We noticed that you re-passed Jan on his soft tires. Do you think the medium tires were the better option for that third stint? Is that how you were able to overcome him?
I think in his term the soft was better, but I think he maybe overdone it. So the softs are dying quickly if you overdo it. He was fast in the first laps. He was catching us, I think, by 1 second a lap or more. But I think what we did was the most safest strategy. The mediums were working. It was the first time the medium was working better in the race than the hard for me. But yeah, I think being on the medium in the end was the better strategy because the softs were dying quickly.
Yeah, well, it clearly worked out well for you. You're only 3 points behind Tom Stevens now. Do you foresee a potential fight for second in the championship in the last 3 rounds?
Yeah, of course. It's still a shame that that incident happened, but yeah. I don't want to start anything, but let's after stewards look at it. But yeah, Singapore, I think is a good track for me, and the upcoming last tracks are good tracks for me as well. We just have to keep going and maybe find something on the setup what Jarl and his guys found in the last 2 rounds now. Because I think my tire wear on the first one was better, but on the mediums, I think my tires were dying more than him. But yeah, in terms of fighting for P2, I think it's definitely possible. But yeah, I mean, you want to come first, so it doesn't really matter if you come second or third. It just looks better on the end result, I think.
But on
Indeed.
the-
Well,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
I'll hand over to you, Ed. I can tell you got something to ask.
On the plus side, Mark, there's 2 good news to take out of this. It's not only is that your 6th podium of the season, the first time you finished third, I think, to my knowledge, because the last year you finished second in Spain as well. So that was the only other podium I could think of. But also, this is the 11th race in a row that you finished in the points, and the only driver that's been able to match that is Robin Pansar as well. So, and obviously you're ahead of him in the championship. So, not only are you very, very quick, you've been very, very consistent in these last 11 races, and it's great. Even though You are still in that championship fight, of course, by hanging by a thread. It looks like Jan is getting closer and closer to clinching it, but you're still keeping the points alive, which is exactly what you need to do. So you can definitely feel you got the best out of a slightly tricky situation today. And well done on continuing that streak. Long may it continue, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm a pretty consistent driver because I think I have one of the best racecraft in this league. Some guys on the top, I think, are getting a bit hot-headed in some situations where Jan, for Zeeuw, where Jan overtook me. He outbroke himself on the last stint, costing us both 1 second. That wasn't very optimal, but yeah, I think one fight with Tom Stevens wasn't that very smart of him either. Diving diving last second, and we dropped out of DRS to the other two. But yeah, I think these things happen. I'm just hoping that maybe for next season they just have a bit more in the brain, and yeah. But still, I think it's a good season for us after a very horrible start.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that, Mark. Congratulations on another podium, and yeah, keep up the consistency. It's definitely your biggest asset.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Ed, I will let you take an interview. Who would you like to bring in?
Well, I think he's been waiting a little while. Shall we go for our fifth place man, Tom Stevens, then see what he has to say? So we're now joined by THR's very own Tom Stevens, who went from 11th on the grid to 5th in the end. So Tom, it was a disappointing qualifying, but you had a meteoric rise up the order, and you got right in the thick of the battle for the podium. Unfortunately, in that final couple of stints, didn't quite go your way, and you ended up having to settle for 5th place, which puts obviously losing more points to Jan. The championship is again in a sort of precarious state, I think it's fair to say, in terms of Jan is now very, very close, within touching distance of clinching it then. So an interesting race. Like I said, the first stint was probably the most exciting for you because you were picking people off left, right and centre.
Yeah, I was quite happy with the start of the race, but the last part wasn't ideal from my side. But yeah, it all started in qualifying. I should have got a better lap in. In the end, it was my banker that put me 11th on the grid. I just couldn't put a lap together. And then when I finally was going to, there was like an invisible front wing or something in the caster section, which just wrote off my lap. So that was the end of that. And then I knew with our setup that in race trim, it should have been a bit easier than quali anyway. So going into the race, I was a bit faithful. I made a few positions in the opening stint, and the pace was really good in the second stint on the medium, so I was having a good time. But as soon as there was a bit of a mess at the front, I'm not really sure what happened, and I went for the overtake on Mark. From that point onwards, it was just like downhill. Just the tyre performance went and never came back, even on the final stint. And gonna have to look into why that happened. It's probably something I did on my side driving wise, but positive result in the end, 11th to 5th. Can't really complain with that. And yeah, it's looking decent for the teams. I believe Super Venturi's pulled away slightly, but we're still in a really good position for the final 3 rounds.
Yeah, I believe Jan pulled away by 2 points, and also Jukka-Pekka Laulu got a point as well. So I think they've pulled 3 points away, and they were within about 6 points, weren't they? So that means it's 9 points then in the team's table, which is still not impossible. Just a question about your teammate, Adam Maguire. Of course, started in the top 4 or 5 or so, made a good start, and then mysteriously seemed to sort of fall away round about the time he made his first pits. I think it was a very, very long time in the pits. Did Adam mention what happened there? It felt like his race just sort of unraveled from that point onwards.
Yeah, Adam would have had the pace today, but unfortunately I believe he had a few contacts with the wall, and he broke his suspension or something. I'm not entirely sure, but he had to take a pit stop for it, and I think it was about 20 seconds in the pits, and from then on he was just unable to recover. I don't even think the car fully fixed or something. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask him. But it's a shame. He definitely had the pace. But going forwards, we have a strong package as a team, and I'm looking forward to what's coming ahead.
So Singapore next race. Is that a Ron you're looking forward to? Because obviously that's the scene of last year. You and Jake having a bit of a contretemps, to use a French term. I don't think anyone will know what it means, but yeah, obviously no Jake this time. So surely that's a nice one that you've got to be feeling confident going into, because it's a very different circuit to Baku, of course.
Yeah, good memories from last year. I mean, that was definitely a very difficult race in its own right. Personally, Baku and Singapore, they're more of like dud tracks for me. They're tracks I'm not really as good at, and they're ones I kind of struggle with. So I'll try and get a decent performance next time out, and I'll practice a bit more. But I'm more looking forward to the final 2 races this season, especially Brazil. That one, yeah, I love Brazil. So it'd be good to end on a high.
You reckon you can keep the points battle going until we get to those last 2 races?
What, to Jan? Oh, well, I think that's a bit ambitious, but anything could happen. Who knows? So let's see.
Absolutely, that's what we love to hear. Well, thanks for talking to us, Tom, and best of luck in both the drivers and, of course, the team's championship, where they're still very, very close. Like I said, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 9 points separating you from Super Venturi. So I'm sure you can do everything in your power to close that gap. Right then, so as we depart from Tom Stevens, I think there's 2 people left that want to talk to us. I think we'll have a very quick chat with Justin Van der Smissen, and then we'll talk to the victorious Nocturne team boss, Toby Davis.
Okay.
First season, so.
Oh, sorry, Justin.
Sorry,
I see we brought you in mid-conversation. Justin, I noticed you were one of the last drivers to jump into the practice server. Was it a bit of a late call for you, or was something else happening?
Well, I knew I had to drive. I think like 1 or 2 days ago. The first day I couldn't really do a lot of practice. Same going for yesterday. I did a few laps yesterday evening. I felt quite okay with the car, and I was doing the laps that I was told to do in terms of the times. And yeah, in the race I was just trying to manage the tires really, gain the experience. Just try and compete with the guys. Yeah, as far as we could.
That's understandable. We saw you having a little bit of an incident at the end there. Just a little bit overcooked, or what happened?
Well, it wasn't the only I had. But the one which you saw in the end, I tried to brake into the corner, and as soon as I turned in, the rear just snapped and it just slid off into the wall. I was scared to lose the rear axle because this car is really damage sensitive.
Yeah.
But luckily I kept my tires and the engine didn't die. So I managed to get to the pit lane and bring it over the line, which was the main goal.
Obviously, you're racing for Stacks, who have been struggling this season. Only 1 point to their names so far. What tends to be the goal for a team like Stacks, who obviously don't have the car to compete with the top guys, and struggle to score points from day to day? How do you motivate yourself to go out there and give it your best shot?
Well, for me, obviously, as the reserve driver, it's my task to do the test sessions. Basically, every single test session, I try to get myself more confidence with the car for occasions like this where I need to step in for someone if it's not available. But I think it's more of a matter with the communication between me and the main drivers. For example, as well with the setup. For today, I was provided one, but there have been occasions for test sessions where, for example, I wouldn't have a setup, and I had to drive on the default setup. Maybe do some changes with the wings, but I mean, every test session is different, and you try to build the confidence with the car to always improve yourself for the next session. Yeah, I think the aim for me at least for the rest of the season, especially after today, is to get more to give better feedback on the car and do better in the test sessions, which are upcoming.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for speaking to us, and best of luck with your future test sessions and outings.
Thanks.
All right.
Right.
Yes, Ed. So
should we do Toby or then Dylan? Or
yeah, I'm not sure we have time for two more, I'm afraid, but we can speak to the winning constructor quickly, if that's okay. Toby Davis. I will let you take this if you like, Ed. But yeah, Toby Davis, of course, the team boss of Nocturne.
So Toby, very, very tense encounter for you, but you come away with on the road first and 10th. Then a great performance from Jarl up front. And Moritz, unfortunately, just running out of fuel, frustratingly, on the run to the line. So I imagine high emotions, mixed emotions, but ultimately, there's got to be a sense of satisfaction to take 2 wins in a row from
yeah, it's not just satisfaction. I'm over the moon, and Jarl is just so good. I mean, how good is he? You know, and to have him as part of the team is fantastic, and he's really driven us to another level since really we had him on board with us earlier this season as an emergency for Adam. You know, he's really brought something fresh to the team, and the results show that. He's had the last 3 rounds, he's had a podium and 2 wins. So, you know, shows work. I mean, his work commitments does hold him back for a full championship. I'm really hoping he'll be able to do as many races as possible with us next season as well. And I think would be committed to that, but of course we all have life in our way. Moritz, of course, so gutted for him. He deserved that P6 and just a slight miscalculation from fuel, and I'd have to take responsibility for that as the engineer, you know. And the race was just a bit faster than we anticipated, a bit more throttle use, and Moritz just a few probably a litre short at the end, really. And got absolutely gutted for him, but he drove so well, and that was his best drive all season, I would say.
Certainly, and keeping him out also helped Jarl in the strategy at certain points as well with the people he was fighting against, gave him that little buffer. But if only there was a way to get that litre from Jarl's car into Moritz.
Well, Jarl didn't have a litre either, mate, to be honest with you. He didn't have any to spare.
Not what he told me.
No, he had literally a litre at the end. So, I mean, we didn't really keep Moritz out or anything like that. He was running his own race, and of course was off strategy. So when he was caught by other cars, he was just on older tyres at that point. He ran medium soft, qualifying 17th versus the soft medium. We were always going to run for the others. So it's just a nature of the cross strategies there.
So, big picture in terms of a team's championship, Nocturne obviously had such a tricky start to the season where points were pretty hard to come by. And now it's all starting to come good with Jarl as a big part of that, but also Moritz, like you say, putting in a very good drive today. I think you and Holland Racing Team are very, very close. Do you think you can get, is 6th the target now, or are you maybe looking at the Adonis Edge battle for 4th, even though it's a long way ahead? Is that if you keep getting those wins, then certainly it's possible?
Yeah, Edge will be I think we're probably on 60 odd points, something like that, back from Edge now. But obviously they have Schluter, who scores a lot of points for them. And then whoever else they can get in the second seat. I think Mark, driving the way he is, he drives very, very well for that team. Scores a lot of points and has done all season. So I don't think we'll catch them. Adonis maybe. I know Panzer's a very good driver, but and obviously Fletcher's come in and done a job. We might be able to get them, but there's obviously only 3 rounds left in the season. We'll see what we can do, but P6 would be fine. It's a backward step from last season, from when we were P5, but we were obviously blessed with the talents of Adam Maguire last season in the Nocturne. So I think if we end up P6, it'll be still a successful season. I'll be happy with that overall, considering where we were at the start. We've had about 25 different drivers drive for us as well, trying to fill that second seat. So,
yeah, David Feidock left a big pair of shoes to fill, and Jarl Tyne has certainly stepped up to the plate. But I'm going to refrain from asking you about the Schluter Tyne collision because I think we've heard everyone else's view on it. And
fine.
Because there was the collision between Schluter and Tyne. You've
Yeah,
been very
yeah.
kind just praising Mark there, and I didn't want to spoil it by asking you about the collision.
No. I mean, no. I'm happy to talk about it. From where I was watching it, it's one of those where I think Jarl made a late move to the inside, and Mark didn't see him and just turned in as if he wasn't there. By the same token, obviously, Jarl's left it very late, so. The way I see that one is
back out quite late as well.
Yeah. So the way I see it, it's one of them they were just close racing for that first part of the lap after Jarl made the mistake at turn 2. It's hard to call, having only seen it once, but for me, it's one of those where if Mark sees him, he gives him the racing room, but he didn't. And of course, why would you? He made the move so late and turned across him. I don't actually know how much of an overlap he had in that point, but certainly. They weren't actually at the apex of the corner. It's not like he sent it down the inside on a late braking move. He just positioned his car to the inside of Mark. So we'll see. It's not for me to call.
Certainly, turn 4 is a very, very tight corner. So we've seen in real life and sim racing a lot of trouble there, to put it mildly. But anyway, to end on a positive note, Singapore next. You excited about that? Do you think Tyne can make it 3 in a row, or do you think that's a tempting fate?
The way we've been, obviously Jarl's come in, and the way we've been looking at the setup work is to build a very, very fast setup over one lap, and then just drive it slower in the race. I don't know if that'll work at Singapore. It's very heavy on tyres, so I don't know if we'll have the advantage that way that we've had. Certainly at Monza, we had a huge advantage seemingly setup wise, and having had Nocturne win and THR 2 and 3 on the podium. Here it didn't work anywhere near as well. We're just blessed that Jarl was on it today. Can I see us doing well at Singapore from a Nocturne point of view? Hopefully.
You'd win last year with Adam.
Yeah, but we don't have Adam, and it's not last year. So you know,
only 2 things that are different.
Yeah, it's a couple of things different there, mate. It's a nice track. I like it to work on. I think it's one of Adam's favourite tracks, so keep an eye out for THR. He's already put in our Discord apologies for causing my own downfall this race, and I'm going to work harder on the next one. So we'll see what happens in that team, in the THR team. But there's no reason Jarl can't carry that on. I do know he's missing the USA round, is Jarl, but he will be there at Singapore. So.
Well, we wish you and Nocturne all the best, and thank you very much, Toby Davies, and congrats on yet another win for Nocturne.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Toby, and thanks, Ed, as well. I'm afraid to say that is the end of our broadcast today. We're out of time, but thank you very much to everyone who we just interviewed, and of course to GPWC, as always, for putting on such a good show. Thank you, Ed, for jumping in alongside me today. I very much appreciate it. And by golly, didn't we see such a good race today?
Yeah, very, very fortunate. And my final word, we didn't get to interview him, but well done, Dylan Fisher, going from 20th to P6. That was a very, very good drive, and he really needed that after a couple of tough races.
Absolutely, one of the drivers of the day today. But anyway, thank you to all of you for watching along. Thank you to Remco de Zeeuw for providing you with the cameras and the sights and sounds that you've been watching for the last couple of hours. Keep your eyes out for the junior categories such as Formula Sprint 2, Formula Sprint 1 and Super Lights. They will be coming up sporadically over the next 2 weeks, specifically on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I think there might also be an academy race as well. And then, of course, in 2 weeks' time, on the 10th of October, we will be going live once again for GPVWC Super League, which will be at the Singapore Grand Prix. And we should, if everything goes to plan for Jan Grangfist, see a champion crowned. Thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you then. Goodbye.